Sure, Xiaoshua's tone was somewhat solemn. It seemed he knew something. Patriarch Sure. Is there something different about this crow? Great Wisdom asked from the side. He had never heard of this world-destroying Dark Night Crow, so his curiosity was strong. This world-destroying Dark Night Crow is the embodiment of an ominous beast. Legend has it that every time it appears, it brings disaster. Sure, Xiaoshua explained. A long time ago, when my stone race first settled in this place, there was a world-destroying Dark Night Crow living here. It brought countless disasters to this land. Even a group of our elders couldn't do anything to it. Later, it was only when a powerful expert from Heavenly Tao Academy arrived that it was slain. I didn't expect Yu Shaoqing's true fate to actually be this ominous beast. It was well known that the condensation of a true fate must have a reference object. It could be a single flower or blade of grass in the world, but it was definitely not something a person could imagine out of thin air. At this moment in the center of the field, the aura of darkness permeated the land. The dark clouds overhead grew thicker and thicker, as if a fierce storm was about to arrive. In this gloomy weather, a giant crow with a pitch-black body opened its murky eyes. It stared quietly at Su Zimo, as if looking at a dead man. A few black feathers drifted down lightly with the breeze. Yu Shaoqing looked at Su Zimo without saying a word. Suddenly, with a sharp and piercing cry that echoed across the sky, everyone present felt their souls quake. Their hearts stopped for an instant, and a layer of ominousness enveloped them all. The massive body of the world-destroying Dark Night Crow swept across the boundless sky, and its talons, harder than steel many times over, reached straight for Su Zimo. Su Zimo frowned slightly, holding Shadow Tyrant in his hand and meeting the strike head-on. With a loud bang, sparks flew in all directions, and the surrounding space shattered completely. The dive's impact force from the world-destroying Dark Night Crow actually knocked Su Zimo back several meters. Immediately after, its beak opened and a torrent of darkness carrying overwhelming power spewed forth. Su Zimo quickly raised Shadow Tyrant in front of him to block. But even so, the powerful force still sent him flying. Coo! 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 The world-destroying Dark Night Crow hovered in midair, watching in the direction Su Zimo had been blasted away. Su Zimo steadied himself, looking at his opponent with interest. Lowering his head to glance at his arms, he saw that the areas where he had just come into contact with the crow had been corroded by the aura of darkness. This dark energy surged into his body, seemingly wanting to devour him whole. Interesting. Seeing that Su Zimo didn't seem to have taken much damage, the world-destroying Dark Night Crow let out another roar. Its massive figure turned into a streak of black light, piercing through the silent void as it charged at Su Zimo. And it wasn't just fast. It truly was like a stream of light, moving at an unprecedented speed. When it charged over, Su Zimo found that, centered on himself, every direction was filled with afterimages of the world-destroying Dark Night Crow. Countless afterimages, as if countless crows were attacking from every angle. Su Zimo didn't even have time to react. He only felt the attacks rain down on him, covering his entire body. The sound of explosions rumbled at the center of the battle. As the void erupted, Su Zimo's figure was once again blasted away. The shattered space slowly began to repair itself, but the people below were left dumbfounded. "What kind of monster is this?" someone murmured. "The world-destroying Dark Night Crow is already an incredibly powerful beast. Many god beasts wouldn't dare provoke it." Sure Xiaoshua's voice was low and heavy. "What's wrong? You were so arrogant just now. Silent already?" Yu Shaoqing's laughter came from behind. Su Zimo grinned slightly as he stood up from the ground. Cracking his neck, he replied, "It's just the first time I've seen this kind of beast, so I wanted to test its attacks." Seeing Su Zimo looking so relaxed, Yu Shaoqing frowned slightly. This guy went through that whole fight and isn't hurt at all? Yu Shaoqing felt a jolt of shock. If this level of attack couldn't harm Su Zimo, then his defense must have reached an incredible level. "Kill!" Yu Shaoqing commanded again, his tone dripping with killing intent. The world-destroying Dark Night Crow opened its beak once more, and a dark torrent that destroyed all the void along its path surged towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo didn't dodge, letting the torrent crash into his body. "You'll have to use more strength," Su Zimo said with a light smile. The force vortex within his body slowly turned, and the power to shake the heavens spread through him. This dark torrent couldn't even push him back, and the corrosive dark energy trying to invade was completely blocked outside his body. Yu Shaoqing took a deep breath and drew his right hand. The world-destroying Dark Night Crow once again swept through the void, turning into countless phantoms in the same manner as before, attacking from every direction. "Using the same move twice, now that's boring," Su Zimo said with a smile. Watching the flashing afterimages around him, Su Zimo's gaze suddenly changed, and it seemed like streams of light flashed in his eyes. He stretched out his hands and grabbed at the air. With a sharp cry, the world-destroying Dark Night Crow, darting through the void and creating endless afterimages, was actually caught in his hand. How could this be? Yu Shaoqing's expression was one of horror. He knew better than anyone how fast his true fate was. Forget catching it. Even an ordinary immortal path cultivator couldn't even see its flight path. He quickly tried to control the crow to break free, but it was useless. Su Zimo gripped its neck, holding the world-destroying Dark Night Crow in his palm. Grinning, he grabbed its left wing with one hand and tore it off alive. With the crow's miserable screech, Yu Shaoqing spat out a mouthful of blood. This was his true fate. Tearing the crow's wing was actually tearing apart his own true fate. "Stop!" Yu Shaoqing roared. But Su Zimo didn't stop. He then grabbed the right wing and ripped it off as well. Yu Shaoqing let out another hair-raising scream and collapsed to the ground, already on the verge of death. Hold on. Someone from the Feather Race couldn't bear to watch any longer. The Feather Race's leader, Yu Feihuang, quickly extended both hands to stop him. "What? You want to intervene?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. "Let him go, we admit defeat," Yu Feihuang said, his expression grim. "That's no good," Su Zimo smiled. "Didn't we agree this was a life-and-death battle? What's this about surrendering halfway?" Behind him, Shi Shaoshua's expression was also filled with anger. He shouted, "Feather Race, do you intend to break the rules?" But Yu Feihuang ignored Shi Shaoshua completely. He continued looking at Su Zimo and said, "Young man, leave some room when doing things. There's no need to make it a dead end. You still have a bright future ahead of you." "Dead end?" Su Zimo raised his head and grinned, seeking death. As his words fell, Su Zimo directly grabbed the head of the world-destroying Dark Night Crow and forcefully tore it off. "You dash!" Before Yu Feihuang could finish speaking, he saw Yu Shaoqing lying on the ground, already without breath. Once a true fate was destroyed, reviving it was extremely difficult, harder than ascending to the heavens. Even an imperial lineage would find it nearly impossible. This was essentially a death sentence. "Good, very good." Yu Feihuang laughed in rage and said coldly, "What? If you're not convinced, why don't you come down yourself and we can spar?" Su Zimo said with a smile. Yu Feihuang snorted coldly and looked at Shi Shaoshua, saying, "Patriarch Shi, we will come again tomorrow to seek guidance." Although furious, he had not lost his wits. At this moment, sending someone to fight Su Zimo would simply be sending them to their death. Someone who could so easily kill Yu Shaoqing could no longer be described in simple terms. He must be completely understood before a single decisive strike could be made. Watching the Feather Race withdraw, the Stone Race finally saw the light of victory after many days of failure. The Stone Race members cheered loudly, as if celebrating triumph. "Many thanks," Shi Shaoshua said solemnly to Su Zimo. "No need for thanks, we're just taking what we each need." Su Zimo waved his hand. "Young Master Su, please wait a while. At noon I will take you to retrieve the Supreme God Hammer," Shi Shaoshua said. Su Zimo nodded. They returned together to the Stone Heart Pavilion. "As far as I know, young Master Su has only joined Heavenly Dao Academy a few days ago, right?" Lu Zhe asked with a smile inside the pavilion. "Your information is quite well informed," Su Zimo nodded. He hadn't expected Lu Zhe to pay such close attention to him, and his sources seemed almost too fast. Yesterday he didn't know, yet today he already knew Su Zimo had just joined Heavenly Tao Academy. Where was this information coming from? I wonder where young Master Su was before? Lu Zhe continued to ask. You seem very curious about me, Su Zimo replied. I am indeed somewhat curious, Lu Zhe admitted, nodding. If I tell you, it wouldn't be any fun, Su Zimo said. I've heard that young Master Lu is also a top disciple of the Immortal Sacred Ground. How about you go up in the next match and give it a try? I am too unskilled. If I lose, it's no problem for me, but I fear it might hurt the morale the stone race has finally built up. Lu Zhe shook his head. After a brief chat with Lu Zhe, Shi Shaoshua sent someone to call Su Zimo. When he arrived at the council hall, Shi Shaoshua was already waiting. Young Master Su, Shi Shaoshua greeted with a nod. Su Zimo nodded slightly and followed behind him. The two headed toward the mid-mountain area. After winding through several turns, they arrived at the stone race's forbidden grounds. This was a very narrow valley. It was like a thread of sky, looking upward. Only a thin line of sky could be seen. Passing through the narrow gorge, the space ahead opened up. Weeds grew wildly on all sides, shrubs several meters tall, some even taller than the two of them. It was like stepping into a prehistoric scene. They pushed aside the weeds in front of them and arrived before a stone gate. Shi Shaoshua explained without hiding anything, smiling as he spoke. My stone race is born with the talent for crafting weapons. It's said that this supreme god hammer is the lord of all hammers, and the weapons it forges have the highest enhancements. In every aspect, it is the best. Our ancestor endured countless hardships to finally find this supreme god hammer. It was originally meant to forge a peerless divine weapon. At this point, Shi Shaoshua sighed. Unfortunately, it eventually attracted heavenly tribulation. Not only was the weapon destroyed, but even our ancestor was struck down by the lightning. Since then, we sealed away the supreme god hammer. As he spoke, Shi Shaoshua placed his right hand into a groove on the stone gate. The next moment, a rumbling sound echoed out. The stone gate, along with swirling dust, slowly moved with a heavy grinding noise. Su Zimo looked past the gate. It was a cave. The cave wasn't dark. A beam of light shone down from above, illuminating the whole space. Let's go, Shi Shaoshua said. They walked in. It seemed no one had been here for a long time. The air carried a strange scent. The cave wasn't large. After 3 to 5 minutes, they stopped. Ahead stood a high platform built of stone blocks. Sunlight poured down from above, landing precisely on a hammer floating above the platform. The hammer was purple, covered in inscriptions and markings. It floated in mid-air, slowly rotating. Purple lightning spread across its surface, with faint arcs occasionally crackling. The supreme god hammer has a spirit of its own. You should go up and take it yourself, Shi Shaoshua said. Actually, if you can take it, it's yours. Su Zimo smiled and walked straight to the platform. He reached out his right hand, slowly moving toward the hammer. Before he even touched it, he felt a repelling force resisting his attempt. Su Zimo paid no mind, directly grasping the handle. He tried to lift it from the platform. The supreme god hammer struggled, its lightning turning violent. Crackling sounds erupted. The lightning spread from the hammer to Su Zimo, trying to attack him. Up, Su Zimo said lightly. He could feel the pulling force. This small supreme god hammer weighed at least tens of thousands of kilos, and it was resisting with all its might. The veins on Su Zimo's forehead bulged slightly, the muscles in his arms swelling. With a loud shout, there was a booming sound. The world before him shattered completely. Layers of void collapsed. The supreme god hammer rose with his arm, swinging in the air. Another loud boom followed. As the hammer struck the ground, countless cracks split open beneath them, forming a deep pit. Many thanks for the generous gift, Patriarch Shi, Su Zimo said with a smile. He then stored the supreme god hammer into his true fate world. Once he went to Heavenly Tao Academy to find the 9-curve God Fire. His true God Sword would be complete. It's nothing. Shi Xiaoshua shook his head slightly. He reminded, weapons forged with the Supreme God Hammer are indeed strong, but the heavenly tribulation they attract is equally terrifying. Young Master Su should be careful. They chatted as they walked out of the forbidden grounds. Su Zimo asked, what does the stone race plan to do next? With a Yu Shaoqing dead, the feather race will definitely not let this go. Shi Xiaoshua shook his head. To be honest, I have no solution. I can only take things one step at a time. Since I've taken your Supreme God Hammer, let me deal with the feather race, Su Zimo said with a smile. What do you mean, young Master Su? Shi Xiaoshua asked in puzzlement. You'll understand later, Su Zimo replied. Shi Xiaoshua did not understand Su Zimo's words. But he didn't ask much, only saying, since young Master Su has already obtained the Supreme God Hammer, are you planning to leave? I have my own plans. Su Zimo waved his hand. Shi Xiaoshua nodded and did not ask further. At this time, within the Feather Race's territory, a group of the Feather Race's high-level members sat in the Grand Hall, the atmosphere slightly heavy. Everyone, speak your minds. After a long while, Yu Feihuang's voice finally sounded. His tone carried fatigue and depth. Because Yu Shaoqing was the junior he valued most, one could say he was almost the next heir to the race. Now that he had died just like this, no matter what, it could not be justified. The people below were silent. Eventually, an elder stood up and said, I think we shouldn't fight them one-on-one anymore. We should just flatten them directly. The tactic itself is fine. The key is that the sudden appearance of that man ruined the situation. Yu Feihuang shook his head and replied, then who do we send to fight now? The elder asked. Shaoqing was already one of the strongest in our race today. In a one-on-one fight, no one could confidently defeat him. But this time he was killed so easily, who could still be sure of victory? I agree with the second elder. There's no need for another duel. We should directly launch a full assault on Sacred Stone Mountain and kill Shi Xiaoshua. Someone else added from below. We've already successfully turned Elder Shi Yan to our side. With his prestige, I believe it won't be hard to take control of the stone race. Good. If there are no objections, then we attack Sacred Stone Mountain head-on, Yu Feihuang said as he looked around and asked. Everyone nodded. I will go invite the elder. We will fight quickly and end this. Try to avoid any accidents, Yu Feihuang said. As soon as his voice fell, the void before them suddenly rippled. A figure walked out from the void. It was an old man. He wore a long golden robe, had long hair, also golden, and in his eyes faint dragon patterns flashed. His face was full of the deep lines left by years. So it's Elder Gu Jia. Upon seeing the newcomer, Yu Feihuang smiled faintly. This elder was from the ancient dragon dynasty, and he was the middleman who had always maintained contact between the two powers. I wonder what matter has brought Elder Gu to our feather race? I heard that Yu Shaoqing was killed? Gu Jia asked with a smile. If Elder Gu has something to say, just say it directly. No need to beat around the bush, a feather race elder said indifferently from below. Mentioning this matter was undoubtedly rubbing salt in their wounds. Don't misunderstand. I mean nothing else, Gu Jia said with a smile. It's just that this time in attacking the stone race, our ancient dragon dynasty will also take part. We have only one request, to take Su Zimo's head. Doesn't your ancient dragon dynasty always avoid showing itself? Yu Feihuang frowned and asked. Although the feather race and the ancient dragon dynasty were allied and fought the stone race together, the ancient dragon dynasty usually played a role in the shadows, never actively appearing. But this time, their change in behavior was indeed strange. I won't hide it from you. This time we're attacking the stone race specifically for Su Zimo, Gu Jia said. A few days ago, we received news that our empire's current holy son was slain by Su Zimo at Heavenly Tao Academy. I believe you understand now. Yu Feihuang thought for a moment, then smiled and said, We welcome the ancient dragon dynasty's participation. Tonight we begin the decapitation operation. The light faded, and the stars dotted the sky like chess pieces falling on a board. Great Wisdom looked at Su Zimo and asked, "When are you leaving?" "Soon," Su Zimo replied with a smile. He sat in the pavilion of Stoneheart Pavilion, stretching slightly and leaning comfortably against the stone chair, unmoving, quietly feeling the breeze blowing against his face. "You're in quite the leisurely mood, Brother Su." Lu Zhe's voice came from the side. But Su Zimo did not respond. Lu Zhe's eyes narrowed slightly, a cold gleam flashing within them before quickly disappearing. Su Zimo was waiting for the feather race's arrival. No evidence was needed, just instinct. The feather race would not let this go. Within the next 2 days, they would definitely launch a decisive battle against the stone race. Night slowly deepened. Su Zimo still had no intention of returning to his room. His entire figure seemed to merge with the darkness, vanishing silently into the night. Bang, bang, bang. Several booming explosions suddenly rang out like thunder, erupting in the ears of all the stone race members. Most people were startled awake. "What happened?" someone asked in surprise. "It seems someone is attacking Sacred Stone Mountain." Everyone gather quickly. Panic shouts followed. Many people rushed toward the mountain gate of Sacred Stone Mountain. "They're here." Su Zimo's eyes, which had been closed, suddenly opened as he let out a faint smile. Around Sacred Stone Mountain, dense crowds of people, numbering in the tens of thousands, surrounded from all directions. In the sky, countless black dots flew over, soaring high. "Shi Shaoshua, come out and face your death." A sharp shout rang through the skies. From all directions came attacks. The barrier on the surface of Sacred Stone Mountain was already on the verge of collapse and wouldn't last long. D. 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 The thunderous roars of countless feather race members merged together, deafening and echoing into the clouds. "Yu Fei Huang, what are you trying to do?" Shi Shaoshua appeared, followed by a group of people, his white robes fluttering and his gaze shifting between gloom and sharpness. "Today I have come to destroy your stone race. If you know what's good for you, surrender obediently, and you can avoid the calamity of annihilation." Yu Fei Huang snorted coldly. "If you insist on stubborn resistance, then I will simply kill everyone I see." The booming sounds continued. A faint cracking noise reached their ears. The surrounding barrier finally failed to hold, shattering completely, as if it were a layer of glass. "Brother Fei Huang, it's been a long time since we fought," Shi Shaoshua called out. "Today, these old bones should move again." "Fine, have it your way," Yu Fei Huang replied calmly from afar. Shi Shaoshua turned and looked at the race's men behind him, his voice hoarse as he shouted. "Today is the moment of life and death for our race. Are you willing to face the enemy alongside me?" "Willing!" The stone race members roared in unison. Their voices rose and fell, echoing across the entire mountain. The feather race and stone race clashed like two different floods, surging toward each other. The feather race sought to encircle and hunt, while the stone race tried desperately to tear open a gap in the encirclement. The two torrents mixed together, the battle erupted instantly. Yu Fei Huang and Shi Shaoshua stood alone, facing each other. The 7 core elders of the feather race stepped into the air together, their gazes locking with those opposite them. According to the previous strategy, first use the Sea of People tactic to kill that young man from this morning. He's the biggest threat. We 7 fighting together is more than enough to deal with him. First find him. Don't let that brat escape. Don't worry. I already had Lu Zhe stop him, he won't get away. The 7 discussed among themselves, then stepped into the air. From the start, they went directly to Stoneheart Pavilion without taking any detours. Lu Brat. Upon seeing Lu Zhe waiting at the door of Stoneheart Pavilion, the 3rd elder quickly called out. 7 elders. Lu Zhe quickly greeted them. "He's inside, never left." "That's good. This time's matter will trouble you," the 1st elder said calmly. "This time we owe you a favor. We will repay it in the future." Lu Zhe smiled and nodded. Being owed a favor by the 7 core elders of the feather race One could imagine the difficulty in that. It must be known that 6 of the 7 elders were already at the peak of God Meridian, and the first elder had long since stepped onto the path of immortality. If you really want them to repay that favor, once they're in hell, you can go to hell yourself and have them return it. Wouldn't that work too? At this moment, a light chuckle sounded from the side. Who's there? Come out. The first elder looked toward the inside of Stoneheart Pavilion, behind an artificial mountain, and said faintly, only to see Su Zimo slowly walk out from behind it. Your spirit sense is not bad. Looks like someone has already made preparations to die, the first elder said faintly. I've been waiting for you for a long time. You're slower than I imagined, Su Zimo said with a smile. The first elder's eyes narrowed slightly, flickering with light as he glanced around, trying to see if there was any other ambush. Sensing eyes fall upon him, Lu Zhe quickly waved his hands and said, 7 elders, I didn't say anything. At this time, to speak would be to make an enemy of the feather race. Do you think I'm that stupid? That's true. The first elder nodded slightly. He looked at Su Zimo and scolded, putting on an act. Su Zimo slightly shook his head, and in the next moment, his figure vanished from where he stood and appeared in front of the first elder. A palm strike came, carrying endlessly swirling spirit force. Palms collided, and as a strong gust spread out from the center, both figures retreated at the same time. An arcane immortal? Interesting, Su Zimo said with a smile. Your feather race is really going all out. Everyone be careful, the first elder warned seriously. Form the array, the second elder said from the side. The 7 quickly formed hand seals, with streams of formation marks flowing from their hands and merging into the void. Su Zimo wanted to interrupt, but their movement techniques were extremely fast. They only dodged, refusing to fight him head-on. Finally, when all the formation marks had been gathered, with a light shout from the first elder, "Rise!" vast immortal might erupted from within, and the entire sky was suppressed. The 7 elders each stood at different positions, each surrounded by overwhelming might, overbearing beyond compare. The formation covered a wide area, completely surrounding Stoneheart Pavilion. Su Zimo examined the formation carefully. He found it was only an amplification array, with no elemental attribute boosts. An amplification array increases the user's abilities across the board: attack, speed, defense. Kill! The 7 elders shouted in unison. The weapons in their hands varied, and all of them struck toward Su Zimo. Apart from the immortal first elder, the others Su Zimo didn't take seriously. He held Shadow Tyrant and countered casually and calmly. Shadow Tyrant tore through the silent void at great speed, and after a few exchanges, it pierced straight through the 7th elder's chest. Old 7, the other elders called out. This brat is strange. Don't hold back. Go all out, the first elder said. The 7th elder, pierced through, tried to break free, but Su Zimo grabbed his throat with one hand, killing him instantly, even twisting his head off. The other 6 elders unleashed their true fates. These true fates varied: Tree Demon, Blazing Lion, Azure Dragon, Saber, Sword. In short, all sorts of weapons and beasts were their true fates. In an instant, the entire sky's spirit force changed, and their might surged. Endless force rolled down like a mighty flood. Su Zimo was surrounded at the center. Boy, die! The 3rd elder shouted, his sword piercing through the void. Its speed was so fast it left countless afterimages behind him. Su Zimo smiled faintly. The power vortex in his body spun wildly, and behind him the figure of the heaven-shattering giant gradually solidified. The heaven-shattering giant's right palm slammed down, sending the 3rd elder flying. What is this monster? Is that his true fate? It doesn't look like it. Before they could discuss further, the heaven-shattering giant grabbed the 3rd elder in its hand like an ant and crushed him, bursting him into a cloud of blood. Retreat quickly, you're no match for him, the 1st elder shouted urgently. Standing at the front, he could at least trade a move or two with Su Zimo, trying to cover the other's retreat. But the heaven-shattering giant's attacks were ferocious. One step shattered mountains and rivers. One punch broke the sky. In just a few moves, the first elder, having blocked attacks to protect others, was struck directly, coughing blood and gravely injured. "Hurry and report to the patriarch. This man cannot be treated lightly," the first elder roared. But as his words fell, the heaven-shattering giant grabbed his right leg, smashing him into the ground repeatedly. The sound of bang 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 explosions rang out. Seeing the other elders about to flee, the heaven-shattering giant flung the first elder's corpse out. The corpse flew like a missile, smashing into the other elders and sending them all flying. Who are you?" the fourth elder asked with difficulty as he crawled up. "You can ask in hell. There are plenty of people I've killed there, maybe they can answer you," Suzumo said with a smile. He raised his blade, ready to cut off their heads one by one. But just as he lifted Shadow Tyrant, a streak of light suddenly shot over from the distance. Suzumo quickly sidestepped to block it. The streak of light was incredibly powerful. When it struck Shadow Tyrant, Suzumo's hands trembled slightly and he stepped back 3 or 4 steps. Looking up, he saw 2 figures stepping through the air, riding the clouds. One was an old man, immortal-like in bearing, with white beard, white hair, dressed in a white long robe draped behind him, and a pair of angelic holy wings. The other was a man wearing a tight-fitting white robe, his gaze faintly carrying domineering intent, with 2 long swords strapped to his back, no wings visible. "So young, yet so ruthless," a majestic voice fell. "It seems your blood debt is heavy indeed. Speaking as if you're some kind of philanthropist," Suzumo said with a smile. Seeing the appearance of the old man and the middle-aged man, the remaining elders of the feather race were struck by this sudden change. The fourth elder quickly greeted, "Ancestor Kuji, Ancestor Chungfeng, why are you here?" The white-robed old man, the so-called Ancestor Kuji, replied calmly, "With the feather race attacking the stone race, how could we possibly not be here for something so important?" "That's true." The fourth elder nodded slightly. "So many years have passed, yet you still show no progress. You truly are disappointing." The feather race's Ancestor Chungfeng said from the side, "So many people against just one opponent at the same cultivation realm, and you end up in such a sorry state." Hearing the words of his own ancestor, the fourth elder lowered his head slightly. For a moment he was at a loss for words. He did not dare to refute at this point, let alone running away. Even his life was hanging by a thread. "Sigh, I have no interest in standing here listening to you chat about family matters," Suzumo said impatiently from the side. "Since you insist on making yourself an enemy of my feather race, I will come and test your strength," Ancestor Chungfeng said. He stepped through the air, white robes fluttering, exuding the refined demeanor of a worldly gentleman. The 2 swords strapped to his back trembled lightly at this moment, letting out a soft hum, as if they, too, wished to enter the fray. "Be careful, Ancestor," several of the elders quickly reminded him. "Mind your own safety," Ancestor Chungfeng said indifferently. A mighty aura surged from him, vast immortal energy pouring out from behind him like a galaxy cascading down for 3,000 miles, drowning the 9 provinces from above. The entire sky was shrouded in this boundless immortal might. Clearly, his entry into the immortal path was far stronger than that of the first elder. At the very least, he was at the immortal sovereign realm, perhaps even at the zenith immortal realm. The 2 long swords at his back turned into streams of light, one blue, floating around Ancestor Chengfeng, and the other purple held in his hand. With both swords drawn, an endless sword intent fell like a chilling wind, carrying a sharp and killing coldness. "Kill," Ancestor Chungfeng said in a low voice. He charged directly at Suzumo. Shadow Tyrant in Suzumo's hand showed no fear, bursting out with terrifying saber intent to clash with him. Blade and sword roared together, colliding high in the sky, shattering a vast swathe of the void. Riding the wind, breaking the waves, Feather Race's Ancestor Chungfeng shouted. The 2 swords around him seemed to transform into a towering tidal wave, drowning the entire void, enveloping Su Zimo completely. Above his head, roaring waves surged into the sky. When the waves reached their peak, two streaks of sword light tore through everything. As if cutting down all brilliance, they closed in from Su Zimo's left and right at once. The two swords moved at the speed of light, shattering all the void along their path, gathering all their power into a single point. Two crisp clangs of sword hums rang out. Su Zimo held one sword in each hand, gripping them tightly in his palms. The long swords struggled desperately, but Su Zimo ignored it. Even as the flesh of his palms tore open and blood flowed freely, he did not loosen his grip. Seeing Su Zimo seize both of his swords, Ancestor Chengfeng's gaze tightened slightly. "Here, have them back," Su Zimo said with a light smile. He swung the two swords in a wide 360-degree arc, then hurled them back. The two long swords, carrying astonishing sword intent, slashed toward Ancestor Chengfeng. Countless streams of light surged from their tips, breaking through all obstacles, truly like riding the wind and breaking the waves. It was already impossible for Ancestor Chengfeng to dodge. He brought his palms together, light purple spirit force spreading in his hands, then slowly drew his palms apart, forming a purple barrier before him. With a loud explosion, the two attacking swords detonated in front of him. The purple barrier shattered instantly, and Ancestor Chengfeng's body was blasted backward. Ancestor Kuji frowned slightly from the side. "Chengfeng," he called toward the center of the blast. "I'm fine." Ancestor Chengfeng's figure emerged from the aftermath. He did not seem badly injured, but his white robes were somewhat disheveled. The top knot on his head had come undone, black hair falling loosely around him. He looked at Su Zimo with a serious expression, then said, "Since ancient times, heroes have emerged from the youth. Indeed, among the younger generation you have the right to be proud." "Are you all right?" Ancestor Kuji asked from the side. "Let's fight together," Ancestor Chengfeng replied. "What?" Ancestor Kuji was slightly stunned. For the two of them, as ancestral figures, to join forces against a junior, this would sound shameful if it spread. "He is not simple. I fear I am not his match," Ancestor Chengfeng said in just a few words, clear and direct. Ancestor Kuji was still slightly stunned. Su Zimo was only at the God Meridian realm. He was at the Zenith Immortal realm, while Ancestor Chengfeng was an immortal sovereign. How could they not defeat a God Meridian cultivator? But Su Zimo gave him no time to think. The three gates and the heaven-shattering force within him spun wildly. In the sky above, three gates tore open. Life, death, and eternity. As the three gates opened, boundless radiance poured down in torrents. The heaven-shattering giant bathed in the light, letting out a sky-shaking roar. Such a vision naturally alarmed the combatants of both clans in this great battle on Sacred Stone Mountain. "What is that thing?" someone asked in shock. "I don't know, it seems to be in the direction of the two ancestors." "Everyone, stay away from it. That's not something we can get close to." "Could it be there's someone in the stone race who can stand against the two ancestors?" Another asked in puzzlement. The stone race did not have many true ancestors. Though their race reproduced slowly over long periods, their lifespans were not especially long. It was said that the founder of the stone race was a piece of primordial heaven and earth stone. They had no flesh and blood. Being able to have consciousness and survive depended entirely on the stone essence within their bodies. When the stone essence was completely depleted, their lifespan ended. This unique way of living meant the stone race's lifespans were generally short. According to their intelligence, in recent years one of the stone race's ancestors had passed away. Now only one remained, already in the twilight of life, unwilling to act lightly. It was said that he could not even last through a single battle before his stone essence ran out. This was why they dared to so brazenly attack the stone race. At this moment, the sky was completely filled with the vast immortal energy of the two. Both had released their true fate. Ancestor Chengfeng's true fate was two streams of gas, one purple and one blue, flowing around him. Behind Ancestor Kuji was a rotating disc. This disc slowly turned, as if it was connected to everyone present, as though invisible threads linked all of them to the disc. Unseen, intangible, yet undeniably real. Especially when the disc appeared, everyone's sense of its presence grew even stronger. Su Zimo looked at the two of them and gave a light chuckle. You used the Wheel of Fate to entangle him. I'll kill, Ancestor Changfeng said indifferently. He held both swords in his hands, without the slightest trace of negligence. Behind him, the streams of blue and purple energy surged into the two swords. In an instant, an astonishing sword intent erupted. The sword of affection, vast as the sea. Ancestor Changfeng gave a light shout. The blue sword in his right hand swept across the silent sky, striking towards Su Zimo. With one move, Shadow Tyrant reversed Samsara and instantly blocked the attack. Samsara reversed and heaven and earth split into two colors, black and white, yin and yang unchanging. When the blade and sword collided, the entire world around them collapsed, with the two at its center. After fusing his true fate, Ancestor Changfeng's strength had increased tremendously, even faintly suppressing Su Zimo. The sword of ruthlessness, as fine as a strand of hair. Ancestor Changfeng shouted again. The void before them exploded once more. The purple sword began to turn slowly, striking toward him. Affection mirrored ruthlessness, and the two different sword intents clashed in the void. Yet they were closely connected, intertwining and merging, bursting with astonishing power. A flash of cold light exploded before his eyes. The heaven-shattering giant's enormous palm quickly moved to block. The brilliance of the twin swords fell entirely upon the giant palm. With a loud boom, the entire void trembled and shattered. The heaven-shattering giant's palm was completely blasted through. But its other palm came down right after, striking Ancestor Changfeng and sending him flying. Kuji, what are you doing? Ancestor Changfeng turned to look at Ancestor Kuji and shouted. Hurry and bind his fate. I know, Ancestor Kuji replied in a deep voice. At this moment, his brows furrowed slightly, for his Wheel of Fate could not sense any trace of fate on Su Zimo at all. This was very unusual. It was the first time in his life he had encountered such a thing. By all reasoning, it should be impossible. The Wheel of Fate was a supreme treasure, inscribed as his true fate. Once merged, it could traverse the river of time and find the fate of any person. All living beings should have their fate reflected in the river of time. But long ago, Su Zimo had used the primordial chaos bead to sever his link to the river of fate, and transferred his fate into the river of fate belonging to the God world. Thus, the river of fate of the primordial heartlands naturally could not find him. Ancestor Kuji frowned slightly, but still formed seals, crossing his hands together. Endless might condensed between his hands. A massive seal character floated up from his palms. Behind him, the enormous Wheel of Fate turned slowly. The sound of creaking gradually filled the ears. Fate, like a great flood, swept across everything, carrying with it the dust of prehistory and the size of the ancient past, crushing down. Hurry! Ancestor Changfeng roared from the front, holding off Su Zimo. A beam of light from the Wheel of Fate shone onto Su Zimo. Yet nothing at all happened. I don't know why either, but the Wheel of Fate is useless against him, Ancestor Kuji said gravely. Useless? Ancestor Changfeng frowned deeply. How is that possible? But Su Zimo gave them no time to think. Shadow Tyrant in his hand grew faster and faster, its power increasing without end. Ancestor Changfeng was feeling the crushing pressure. He was already being completely suppressed. The heaven-shattering giant, bathed in the light of the three gates, brought its palms down once more, covering an area of several miles. A small peak atop Sacred Stone Mountain was even completely obliterated beneath the palm. Ancestor Changfeng's figure was sent flying again. Seeing this, Ancestor Kuji no longer bothered using the Wheel of Fate. He quickly rushed forward to fight Su Zimo directly. Unfortunately, although he was a Zenith Immortal, his true fate was completely unusable, which made his combat power even weaker than Ancestor Changfeng's, who was an immortal sovereign. What do we do next? Ancestor Changfeng quickly asked. How can such an existence be here on Sacred Stone Mountain? Ancestor Kuji was puzzled. If such a figure existed, how could they possibly fear the feather race? The two exchanged glances and nodded to each other. Ancestor Changfeng raised both arms high, the two swords in his hands pointing to the sky, merging into one. Under the cold moonlight, the two swords slowly fused together. The sword intents of affection and ruthlessness twined together, condensing as one. Kill! Ancestor Changfeng's expression turned solemn as he unleashed the sword strike with all his strength. Meanwhile, Ancestor Kuji's right palm moved slowly, pinching his fingers into a flower-like gesture as a sealing mark condensed in his hand. The seal soared into the sky, enveloping the entirety of Sacred Stone Mountain. The mark expanded hundreds of times in size, slowly rotating. From within the mark, rolling heavenly thunder poured down, all aimed at Su Zimo. When all the attacks came at once, Su Zimo smiled. The gate of eternity within the three gates opened wide. In that instant, he could be immune to all damage. Moreover, aside from Ancestor Changfeng and Ancestor Kuji, Su Zimo discovered another figure hidden in the void. This figure struck at him at the exact moment the two ancestors attacked. It was a massive dark yellow dragon. The dragon soared into the sky, carrying boundless draconic might, its dragon's prison like an ocean, shattering the void. Su Zimo only smiled faintly, watching all of their attacks. Every attack exploded on his body, but because of the Gate of Eternity, he took no damage at all. The space shattered, gales spreading in all directions. When the dust settled, everyone looked up. The scale of the attack was so great they could not help but pay attention. Beneath the settling dust, Su Zimo stood completely unharmed. In one hand he held a book, in the other a brush. Black and white energies of life and death flowed across the codex of life and death and the brush of life and death. What is that? Ancestor Changfeng asked in confusion. I don't know, but I sense a terrifying aura, Ancestor Kuji replied, shaking his head. The brush moved slowly across the book, and on the first page Su Zimo wrote the two characters for Feather Race. In the next moment, the characters erupted with endless radiance. The black and white energies thickened, enveloping the characters. The characters left the book, floating in midair. They began to transform within the void, becoming a black hole that could swallow everything. Suddenly, countless black and white chains extended from the black hole. These countless chains bound every member of the feather race present. What is this thing? A member of the feather race shouted. My life force. It's draining my life force. Some members were reduced to dried corpses in the blink of an eye. This is bad. Everyone scatter. Ancestor Changfeng roared. At this moment, even he was entangled by countless chains. These black and white chains slowly spread out from the black hole. They completely surrounded Ancestor Kuji and Ancestor Changfeng. No matter how they dodged, the chains seemed to have a tracking ability and could always lock onto them. And no matter what kind of attacks they used, they could not break these chains. What on earth are these things? Ancestor Changfeng shouted angrily. At this moment, more and more members of the feather race were being bound by the chains. These chains absorbed their life force, contending against them. It's that book in his hand causing all this. Suddenly, Ancestor Kuji looked at Su Zimo and shouted. However, the two of them had no way of approaching Su Zimo. The chains completely encircled them, layer after layer. The two of them were the ones who had lasted the longest among the feather race. But in the end, even they were pierced through the hands and feet by the chains. Nailed to the void, their limbs fixed, and several chains also bound their waists from behind, pulling them. Oh right, I forgot there was still someone else. Su Zimo chuckled lightly. He waved his right hand, and countless chains followed his motion, all striking toward the distant void. That void seemed empty, but when the chains shattered it and completely destroyed that section of heaven and earth, a dark yellow dragon suddenly soared into the sky from within. For a moment, dragon might surged, as it struggled desperately to escape. Someone from the ancient dragon dynasty? Su Zimo said with interest. This young lord, I did not intend to harm you. I was merely passing by. The giant dragon spoke human language in haste, trying to explain. I heard your ancient dragon dynasty colluded with the feather race, and I even killed the holy son of your dynasty. Do you think I do not know? Su Zimo smiled. Chains hooked onto every single scale of the dragon. No matter how the dragon roared, it was still slowly dragged toward the black hole. If you dare kill me, my ancient dragon dynasty will never let you go. The dark yellow dragon roared in fury. If I feared your dynasty, I wouldn't have killed your holy son. Su Zimo laughed. That was because you had the Heavenly Tao Academy protecting you. Otherwise, our dynasty would have acted already. The dragon hurriedly said, Now that the Heavenly Tao Academy has been destroyed, you will have no place to hide. The world may be vast, but there will be no room for you. Release me, and I can conceal your whereabouts and persuade the Empire not to pursue you. Destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy, just with your ancient dragon dynasty? Su Zimo laughed. There was ridicule in his words. Leaving aside the terrifying influence the Academy held, purely in terms of strength, the Heavenly Tao Academy could crush the ancient dragon dynasty. Don't be fooled by their so-called two grand emperors. In front of the Heavenly Tao Academy, they were not even worth mentioning. To be blunt, in the entire Overlord region, aside from the immortal extinction sacred ground, no other lineage was worth comparing to the Heavenly Tao Academy. It isn't only our ancient dragon dynasty. This time, nearly 7 lineages joined to destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy. Not only from the Overlord region, but also from the Holy Flower region, the Skiluan region, and other continental powers. Supreme sects too numerous to count. The dragon answered confidently. The Heavenly Tao Academy is doomed. Shouldn't you plan for your own future? So many powers. That does sound fun. Su Zimo smiled. Why do you all want to destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy? This? The dragon hesitated and did not directly answer. Release me, and I will tell you. You are not qualified to bargain, Su Zimo replied. Then kill me if you must. Either way, in the end, you won't escape, the dragon said coldly. Su Zimo glanced at him, and Shadow Tyrant in his hand descended, raising boundless blade intent into the sky. You really are going to kill Dash? Before the dragon finished his words, they were cut short. A bloody dragon head fell from the heavens, while the massive body was dragged into the black hole by chains. Su Zimo turned his gaze toward the feather race. Who exactly are you? Ancestor Kuji asked from the side. He knew he could not break free, so he sought a final chance. Does it matter? Su Zimo asked. Our feather race does not recall offending you. This is between us and the stone race. We do not understand why you must interfere, Ancestor Kuji asked. Take money from others, and you must eliminate their troubles, Su Zimo replied. Whatever terms the stone race offered you, our feather race can offer double, even many times more. We only beg you to withdraw from this struggle, Ancestor Changfeng quickly added. Ha ha ha. Why go to such trouble? Su Zimo said. Destroy your feather race, and won't everything you own belong to me anyway? Looking down at the struggling feather race members, Su Zimo no longer wasted words. Death. One word illuminated the heavens. Endless killing intent surged forth, as if scattering the darkness of the sky. In the east, the first light of dawn pulled open the curtain, the first ray of brightness descending, dyeing the horizon like a painting of the turbulent world. Blood covered heaven and earth. The feather race were dragged into the endless black hole, ultimately completely annihilated. That was the edge of life and death, stripping others of their existence, utterly domineering. This codex of life and death was essentially an area of effect technique. This power was determined by the caster. With Su Zimo's current strength, once he wrote a name in the codex of life and death, he determined their life or death. Even those at the level of immortals might not escape. He looked down at the scene of corpses everywhere, blood flowing into rivers. Sacred Stone Mountain had become a mountain of blood. Rivers of blood flowed from the summit down to the base. At this moment, all members of the stone race were utterly shaken by the sight. With his own power alone, he annihilated an entire race. Such an existence, perhaps apart from a grand emperor, they would never again encounter in their lifetimes, let alone witness personally. Many thanks to young Master Su for saving my stone race from annihilation. Shi Xiaoshua was the first to kneel towards Su Zimo. Many thanks to young Master Su for saving our lives. The remaining tens of thousands of stone race members also knelt. The vast sea of people bowed, the scene immense, and the entire stone sacred mountain fell silent. From this day on, should young Master Su ever command, my stone race, even if it means shattering bones, braving blades and fire, will serve you loyally, Shi Xiaoshua said loudly. Enough, it was just a casual act. Su Zimo waved his hand. The seriousness of Shi Xiaoshua's gesture was unexpected to him. Young Master Su, you have not only saved our lives, but ensured the continuation of our race, Shi Xiaoshua said. From today onward, you are our greatest benefactor. We will record your deeds in our ancestral records, cast a statue for you, and ensure our descendants forever remember this gratitude. Su Zimo smiled and nodded, spotting Rock Solid among the crowd. It's time we return to the Heavenly Tao Academy, Su Zimo said. So fast, Rock Solid said in surprise. Stay a few more days. My clansmen also want to thank you. No need. I always feel that something will happen at the academy in the next few days, so I want to go and join the fun, Su Zimo said with a smile. To welcome the storm. You're right. I almost forgot about that. Rock Solid nodded. Then let's go together. No matter the outcome, we must stand on the side of the academy. As the two were talking, Shi Xiaoshua came over with many elders. There's no need for too many words of thanks. 1. I did it for the sake of the Supreme God Hammer, and 2. For Brother Rock's sake. Su Zimo waved his hand and said, Is young Master Su leaving? Shi Xiaoshua asked. Su Zimo nodded slightly and said, Your stone race has just suffered a great calamity and been reborn. Isn't it time for some reorganization? What does young Master Su mean? Shi Xiaoshua asked in confusion. Some ill-intentioned people within the race. Of course, you can investigate that yourselves. Su Zimo waved his hand and asked, Where is the Feather Race's territory? From Sacred Stone Mountain, 30 miles east, it should be Jade Sky Ridge, Shi Xiaoshua quickly said. But now that the Feather Race's main force is gone, the rest won't be able to stir up much trouble. Su Zimo nodded slightly. After briefly bidding farewell to Shi Xiaoshua and the others, he didn't bother with Lu Zhe from the Mortal Immortal Sacred Ground or the others. He left it to the stone race to handle, since Lu Zhe hadn't provoked him. He had already given Shi Xiaoshua a reminder. He and Rock Solid set off eastward. After about an hour, they arrived in Jade Sky Ridge. This was the Feather Race's territory, the place where they lived. The ridges and mountains were covered with lush, towering trees. The morning sunlight shone down, and the air was especially quiet. After confirming their direction in the sky, they descended into the heart of the Feather Race's territory. Who dares trespass into our Feather Race? A loud shout rang out as more than 10 Feather Race members flew over. Su Zimo ignored them and examined the surrounding buildings. There were also places like the Technique Pavilion and the Weapon Hall here. He had come to plunder the Feather Race's resources to strengthen his god world. Naturally, these people were left to Rock Solid to handle. Su Zimo entered the great halls, not bothering to choose. He swept everything into his god world. At this moment on the god world, all beings had already stepped onto a path of cultivation. The inheritances and techniques Su Zimo had placed within had been discovered and were being practiced. The spirit force grew increasingly dense. He deliberately guided the myths of the god world, aligning them with the cultivation system. Now, some true Meridian Realm experts had already emerged. They were the first beings to cultivate and the best among them. Of the vast resources plundered from the Feather Race, most were useless to Su Zimo. He scattered them across the god world. They would await those fated to find them. Once the first true cultivators emerged, those who could reach the God Meridian realm, he would no longer need to invest resources. After plundering the feather race completely, Su Zimo prepared to leave. As for the remaining feather race members, when they heard that their main force had all perished at the stone race, their expressions varied. Some believed, others did not. As for their final fate, Su Zimo figured the stone race would handle it. He and Rock Solid then set out toward the Heavenly Tao Academy. Though the two had only been gone a few days, compared to before, Heavenly Tao City now felt desolate. The city was not bustling as imagined. Occasionally, small groups walked the wide streets. Even the street vendors were listless, no longer shouting their wares. When Su Zimo and Rock Solid returned, they found that many students had already left the academy. Now, less than 1/10 of the students remained, and that was already considered good. This cradle of the human race, founded in the desolate era, was facing desolation for the first time. It seems something really is about to happen, Rock Solid said beside him. Their figures descended into the academy. Coincidentally, a few students nearby were preparing to leave. Rock Solid quickly stopped them and asked briefly, "Senior brother, you must have just returned to the academy," a young man said. "The academy has issued a notice. A disaster is coming soon. The academy is not certain it can resist. Everyone is free to stay or leave. You may depart, or you may remain and share life and death with the academy." "Are you leaving?" Rock Solid asked. "Senior brother, you should leave early," the young man said with a sigh. "I heard this time several imperial lineages are leading the attack, and even forces from other continents are joining. What can we do? Staying will only add to the academy's burden." "You cowardly fools!" Hearing this, Rock Solid grew furious. "How have the academy and the teachers taught us all these years? Even if you do not repay their teachings, at the very least you should not abandon the academy at such a time. You are unworthy of being human, unworthy of being students." Hearing Rock Solid's rebuke, the few students looked ashamed. "We don't want to leave either, but with everyone else gone, what use is it if we stay?" "Enough!" Su Zimo laughed and waved his hand. "Everyone has their choice. Don't demand too much." "I just can't stomach it," Rock Solid said. "Let's go find Master Nu and ask about the situation," Su Zimo said. Venerable Nu was still on Vermilion Bird Island. The two stepped through the air and returned to the island. At that moment, Venerable Nu was strolling around Vermilion Bird Island with a woman, seemingly unconcerned with the academy's current plight. "Master," the two greeted him. "You've returned," Venerable Nu said with a smile. "Is the stone race's matter resolved?" "Yes, thanks to Junior Brother Su," Rock Solid quickly nodded. "Let me introduce you, this is Zhu Qian. From now on, she will be your master's wife," Venerable Nu said, pointing at the beautiful woman with a smile. Su Zimo could tell that this woman was the vermilion bird he had resurrected, now in human form. The two greeted her briefly. Rock Solid then began asking about the academy's current situation. Venerable Nu sighed softly and said, "The situation is grim. Why are they attacking our academy? There shouldn't be any grudges, and this time so many imperial lineages are joining." Su Zimo voiced his doubts. "Just a bunch of flies wanting to share the spoils," Venerable Nu snorted coldly. "This matter involves the Sky Blue Demon Rock. You could say it's a hidden danger from the past." "Sky Blue Demon Rock?" Rock Solid asked in confusion. "What is that?" "A demonic beast. In ancient times there was the Heavenly Rock. It was said to feed on dragons, possessed boundless strength, and its body stretched for 100,000 meters, soaring across the 5 continents. It could swallow clouds, breathe out mist, summon the wind and rain, and had immense divine powers." Venerable Nu continued, "During the desolate era, the dragon race was one of the great races among the beasts. Countless of their ancestors had ascended to the outer heavens, and no one dared provoke them. Yet the Sky Blue Demon Rock was so strong it forced the dragons into an agreement. Each year the dragon race had to send over some of their most wicked and vile members for it to devour. Only then could the rest of the dragons remain safe. So powerful, Rock Solid said in astonishment. More than that. Though the dragons had exchanged safety, the sky blue demon rock was not satisfied. When it could no longer consume dragons, it turned its gaze upon the human race. Back then, during the desolate era, humans were frail beyond compare, completely no match for the sky blue demon rock. Tens of thousands of humans did not fall in racial wars but instead perished in the belly of that rock. Later, when the Heavenly Tao Academy was established, the atrocities of this rock enraged the human sages. The 10 founders of the Academy joined forces and sealed the rock. They then built the Academy upon the place of the seal, suppressing the rock for countless ages as punishment for the crimes it had committed against the human race. So that's how it was. The 10 founders truly were the blessing of our race, Rock Solid said with emotion. Then what now? Did something go wrong with the rock seal? Under the suppression of the seal, the sky blue demon rock had grown weaker and weaker. It was estimated that in another 1,000 years it would perish completely. Venerable Nu sighed. Unfortunately, a few years ago the rock race came to rescue it, even attacking my Heavenly Tao Academy. That battle was one of the few great wars the Academy has faced in recent years. Although the powerful ones of the rock race were almost completely slaughtered, 9 out of 10 dead, they still risked annihilation of their entire race to damage the seal of the sky blue demon rock. You mean, the sky blue demon rock is about to break free? Rock Solid asked in shock. From Venerable Nu's description, back when the dragon race was at the zenith of their power, even they had to yield to the rock. This was enough to show just how terrifying its strength was. If it were to break free from the seal, the consequences would be unimaginable. And since it was sealed by the 10 founders, the one it would hate most would certainly be the Heavenly Tao Academy. Compared to back then, the human race today was thriving. If united, the rock naturally would not be a real threat. But though humans were many, they were not united. Now that the sky blue demon rock was about to emerge, not only would others not help, there were countless who wished to strike while the Academy was in crisis. Otherwise, why would so many imperial lineages gather to destroy the Heavenly Tao Academy? The day it breaks free is not far. By then, a storm of blood and slaughter will be unavoidable, Venerable Nu said. Whether our Heavenly Tao Academy can survive the storm remains unknown. Rock Solid nodded slightly, lost in thought. What do you two plan to do? Venerable Nu asked. Master, of course we will stay. Live and die with the Academy, Rock Solid replied quickly. Su Zimo also nodded slightly. I'll take you to meet the Dean. The Academy is currently laying down great formations. Perhaps you can help, said Venerable Nu. The Dean? Rock Solid asked excitedly. Our Dean is always elusive. I've been at the Academy this long, but I've never once seen them. The Dean has never appeared? Su Zimo asked curiously. The Dean dislikes showing themselves. Usually Vice Dean Li Changhe manages things, Venerable Nu replied. You'll see once we get there. Oh? The two followed Venerable Nu, soaring into the air westward. They finally stopped before a vast golden hall. Above the hall, 3 words came into sight. Grand Tao Chamber. These 3 words brimmed with Tao resonance. Merely the script itself suppressed the void around it. Solemn and awe-inspiring. Inside the hall, hundreds were already seated cross-legged. Each radiated a boundless might, fierce as a storm, men and women, old and young alike. Su Zimo looked up and saw a woman seated in the chief seat. He froze for a moment. He knew this woman. It was the same white-robed woman he had met before, the one who lent him the token to enter the Academy. He didn't believe in coincidence. That meant she had been watching him all along. She's the Dean. Even Rock Solid was surprised. Our Dean is a woman? Silence. Venerable Nu glanced at Rock Solid, then looked up at the woman on the seat. He said, Dean, these are my 2 disciples. Since the Academy now faces a great crisis and surely lacks hands, I've brought them to help. Since when do you still care for Academy matters? The woman said with a light laugh. Ever since the Vermilion Bird's death, Venerable Nu had confined himself to Vermilion Bird Island, no longer taking disciples and rarely appearing. We meet again. The woman looked at Suzimo, smiling with interest. Greetings, Dean, Suzimo said evenly with a nod. No need for surprise. The reason I approached you before was to seek the aid of the true martial sacred ground. There was no other motive, the woman said. Suzimo nodded. Very well, since you're here, find seats on either side, the woman said with a wave of her hand. Venerable Nu sat on the left, joining other academy teachers. Suzimo and Rock Solid sat further back, to the far right. What's our dean's name? Suzimo asked Rock Solid in a low voice. I don't know either. The dean has always been mysterious. Rock Solid shook his head. At the front of the hall, the woman was speaking about the academy's situation. Most of the details Suzimo already knew. This time, the imperial lineages that came included not only local powers of the Overlord region, like the ancient Dragon Dynasty, Pure Yang Sacred Ground, Dark Heaven Sacred Ground, and the Merciful Voyage Sacred Ground, but also imperial lineages from the Western continent. This hall had gathered nearly all the Academy's teachers. Among them were many young elites. Suzimo even saw Ji Ruobing there. Isn't she the saintess of the immortal extinction sacred ground? Why is she here as well? Suzimo asked in confusion. This is her personal training and choice. The immortal extinction sacred ground will not intervene, Rock Solid explained. The sect has always been this way. For their holy sons and saintesses, they never interfere in their decisions. Rock Solid then pointed out several young men and women seated at the front, introducing them one by one to Suzimo. See that young man? Rock Solid said. Suzimo followed the direction of his finger and saw a young man in a blue robe, with a resolute face, sitting on a meditation mat. He was listening intently to the words of the woman seated above. The young man carried a faint ethereal aura, and on his back was a long green sword. What about him? Suzimo asked curiously. His name is Feng Xiaoxi, Rock Solid explained. In this generation of our Heavenly Tao Academy, he is the one entrusted with the greatest hope, a contender for heaven's will itself. Among the younger generation, he is regarded as the foremost. Not bad. Suzimo sized him up and replied. And that woman in the red dress on the left, Rock Solid continued, pointing to another figure. She is the direct disciple of the dean, named Pure Water. She too is among the strongest within the academy. Inside this single grand hall, nearly all the high-ranking strength of Heavenly Tao Academy had gathered. The sky-blue demon rock breaking free of its seal can no longer be stopped. As for the matter of sealing, let us set it aside, the woman at the top said. Those imperial lineages who came are not truly here to destroy Heavenly Tao Academy. They merely wish to seize our foundation amidst the chaos. Is there really no way with the sky-blue demon rock? Vice Dean Li Changhe asked unwillingly. The forefathers will handle this matter. It is not something we should worry about. What we need to do is deal with those imperial lineages, the woman said calmly. Now I will assign people to guard each sacred ground. As long as we can hold them, we will have won this war. Seeing the serious expressions of everyone in the hall, the woman's tone grew solemn. I will guard Radiant Heart Tower. Vice Dean Li Changhe will guard the Glazed Hall. Elder Meng will guard Flowing Water Cliff. As she spoke, the sacred sites across Heavenly Tao Academy were distributed clearly. Each was assigned based on its importance and the strength of the one defending it. When she finished, however, the crowd frowned slightly, because there was still one important place unassigned, the Myriad Treasures Tower. As one of the top 3 sacred sites within the Academy, the treasures stored there could shock the entire primordial heartlands. It was certain to be one of the main targets for those imperial lineages. Dean, who will guard the Myriad Treasures Tower? Li Changhe finally asked. The woman's gaze swept across everyone present. Pure Water and Feng Xiaoxi both looked faintly expectant. To guard the Myriad Treasures Tower meant the dean recognized their worth. Although the danger was great, staying behind to defend the academy showed fearlessness. Suzimo. The woman's gaze finally landed on him, her lips curling slightly. The Myriad Treasures Tower will be entrusted to you. Why? Pure Water immediately stood up as soon as she heard this. Realizing her reaction was impulsive, she quickly added, Master, the importance of the Myriad Treasures Tower is beyond doubt. No matter what, it shouldn't be him. I agree with Pure Water. Feng Xiaoxi nodded. The elders in the hall began murmuring as well. Are you questioning my words? The woman asked coldly. Master, I dare not, Pure Water hurriedly said. But at least let me spar with him once. If I lose, I will accept it. Otherwise, I cannot understand. There is no meaning in sparring. I have my reasons for this decision, the woman replied indifferently. That's enough for today. Su Zimo stays. The rest of you may leave. Pure Water still wanted to speak, but was stopped by Li Changhe, who shook his head slightly and led the others out. Do you think you can handle it? The woman asked Su Zimo. It's not about whether I can or cannot. It's about whether I want to or not, Su Zimo replied. I like your confidence, the woman smiled. Venerable Nu has told me about you. If you succeed in guarding it, you may take any item you wish from within. Deal, Su Zimo smiled. Pure Water and Xiaoxi are still young. Be tolerant with them, the woman said again. I don't mind, but you'd better make sure they don't provoke me. Su Zimo waved dismissively. After a brief exchange about the Myriad Treasures Tower, he left. Only when his figure disappeared did the woman turn her head and speak seriously. Come out. At her words, a shadowy figure emerged from the empty void nearby. The figure was hazy, its appearance indistinct. You really trust him this much? The shadow asked with a smile. He destroyed the feather race, the woman replied evenly. Neither Feng Xiaoxi nor Pure Water could do that. That is why I chose him. Let's hope your choice is not wrong, the shadow answered. And the sky blue demon rock? The woman continued. We are doing our best, the shadow said gravely. As soon as Su Zimo stepped out of the hall, Rock Solid was already waiting outside. Master asked me to take you to the Myriad Treasures Tower, Rock Solid said. Su Zimo nodded. The two flew through the air until they arrived at the location of the pavilion. The Myriad Treasures Tower was not a true building. It was its own world, an independent space. But Su Zimo could not yet enter this void. Its entrance was set within a pavilion. For crimson pillars stood around it. 6 stone steps led upward, and above, the 8-sided roof was tiled with glazed tiles. On its eaves were carved the characters, Myriad Treasures Tower. Inside, a stone table and 4 stone stools stood. This tower is the entrance. You only need to guard here, Rock Solid smiled. I didn't expect the dean to value you so much, assigning you here. Su Zimo sat inside, leaning back against a stone stool. On the stone table was a black and white chessboard. The black and white pieces crossed intricately, like armies clashing or 2 giant dragons fighting. Then I'll leave you to it. I have other matters, Rock Solid said. Su Zimo nodded slightly. During this time, Heavenly Dao Academy felt unusually desolate. Around the Myriad Treasures Tower, not a single soul was in sight. Su Zimo leaned in the pavilion, gazing up at the sky. The turbid skies hung heavy, and the air was thick with baleful aura. Suddenly, Su Zimo's eyes flashed as he turned northward. A red figure was stepping across the sky toward him. A streak of deep red flickered in the sky. As the spirit force rioted, a red figure slowly approached. This woman wore a long crimson robe, with an unusually long whip coiled at her waist. She looked rather fierce. This woman, Su Zimo happened to recognize. Her name was Pure Water, the personal disciple of the dean. She descended outside the tower, her aura pressing as she stared at Su Zimo. Something you want? Su Zimo asked. From this moment on, no one is allowed in or out. This place will be guarded by me. Fight me, the woman said faintly. Not interested. If you're not convinced, go speak to the dean. Su Zimo waved dismissively. Are you afraid? Pure Water chuckled softly. That kind of cheap provocation is childish. Su Zimo cast her a glance and ignored her. I know your feats in the academy. Breaking through the 10th floor of the Heavenly Dao Tower, killing the Azure Dragon Crown Prince, defeating Ji Ruobing. But I'm still not convinced, Pure Water said on her own. If you fight me, I'll drop this matter. Su Zimo closed his eyes, ignoring her. If you don't fight, then I'll stay right here and not leave, Pure Water snorted coldly. She didn't enter the tower, instead sitting on the stone steps outside. Su Zimo paid her no mind. His consciousness had already entered the god world of his true fate. As spirit force revived, all beings set foot on the path of cultivation. Now the god world was blossoming everywhere, a scene of endless competition. Empires rose, sects and cults flourished. More and more powers sprang up like bamboo shoots after the rain. With nothing better to do, Su Zimo simply watched like a creator god, observing the transformations of the land and the lives of its people. At the same time, he felt a growing sense of urgency. When Heaven's will finally took shape, he would have to quickly ascend to the realm of Grand Emperor and continue his path. Otherwise, if one day someone within his true fate grew stronger than him, the balance would be broken. His world had no concept of Heaven's will yet. Its laws were all defined by him. But once those laws formed, even he could not casually change them. After a long time in the god world, Su Zimo's consciousness returned to his body. Pure Water was still seated on the steps, showing no intention of leaving. Mo Tianming. Brother Su, how have you been lately? Mo Tianming greeted with a smile. Still fine. I wonder, where has Brother Mo been assigned? Su Zimo smiled. I was assigned to guard the glazed hall with the Vice Dean. Mo Tianming looked around the area. He smiled and said, It seems the Dean places quite some hope on you, Brother Su. Did you come for something specific? Su Zimo asked. No particular reason, just passing by. Mo Tianming shook his head with a smile. I've heard the Myriad Treasure Tower holds great significance to the Academy. You should be extra cautious. Su Zimo smiled and nodded. After chatting a little, Mo Tianming departed. Yet Pure Water remained at the steps. The setting sun faded at the horizon. The sky darkened, pulling across a curtain of black. Though most students had left the academy, tranquility could not be felt. Instead, there was the sense of hidden currents. In the deep night, beastly roars came from afar. The sound was strange, like the screech of a great eagle, yet also like the roar of a fierce tiger. Long and powerful, the sound carried a force that shook hearts, leaving many unable to sleep, resounding the whole night until dawn. Looks like that thing is about to come out, Pure Water muttered. At that moment, 2 streaks of light flew in from afar. One black, one purple, brimming with killing intent that spread across the void. Even before the lights arrived, voices came from within. Students Jian Wuhan and Dao Quang come to aid. When the words fell, the streaks landed and 2 figures descended from the void. Because they didn't land near the tower, Su Zimo couldn't see them clearly. Didn't expect them to come, Pure Water said with some emotion. You know them? Su Zimo asked. Pure Water gave him a glance, snorted, and didn't answer. If you answer my question, I don't mind letting you in to sit. Otherwise, I'll drive you away, Su Zimo said. You're letting me guard the Myriad Treasure Tower? Pure Water asked. You think you can handle it alone? Su Zimo smiled. Pure Water paused in silence for a moment before snorting coldly. You're asking about those 2 who just passed by, aren't you? Su Zimo nodded slightly. They're a married pair. The man is called Dao Quang, the woman Jian Wuhan, Pure Water explained. Their names are well known in the Overlord region, and you don't know them? I don't pay much attention to others, Su Zimo smiled. They're wanderers. In their youth, they once trained here in the academy. Later, they journeyed together. One blade, one sword. Their reputation for slaughter is terrifying. Dao Quang was even given the title Blood Butcher. Pure Water continued. Some elders once thought their killing intent too heavy and wanted to expel them, but the dean stopped it. Didn't expect that, with the academy in danger, they would be the first to return and help. Life really is full of drama, Suzimo laughed. I can enter now, right? Pure Water asked. Seeing Suzimo nod, she entered the tower and sat on a stone stool. Her gaze was worried as she looked toward the distant horizon. Though all beings lived under the same blue sky, the clouds above Heavenly Dao City seemed far more gloomy. Looking closely, one could see many small cracks across the sky, and the clouds seemed stained by darkness. Pure Water sighed, turned to Suzimo, and saw him reclining on a stone stool, eyes shut in sleep, as if the world's troubles had nothing to do with him. At a time like this, you can still sleep? Pure Water said angrily. What would change if I were awake? Even if you worry, can you change the fate of the academy? Suzimo replied calmly, eyes still shut. Pure Water was silent for a moment, then finally asked, Do you think the academy can survive this calamity? That's not something I need to worry about. The dean's order was simple, guard the Myriad Treasure Tower, Suzimo replied. If the academy falls, what use is guarding this tower? Pure Water snorted. In the following days, the atmosphere in the academy grew heavier. That strange beast roar became more violent. Its frequency also grew faster. Before, it only sounded at night. Now, even during the day, the roars echoed. 2 days later, as another roar split the air, the entire earth began to shake. In an instant, demonic energy surged into the sky, and the northern horizon was completely drowned by it. A gust of demonic wind swept through, and in that moment, sand and stones flew as the heavens and earth turned dark. Just from the roar of the beast alone, one could judge how powerful it was. The entire sky seemed to be covered by a layer of black demonic energy. Suzimo looked up at the skies, and he could feel that at this moment, it was as though countless eyes had appeared. They were all staring at the Heavenly Dao Academy at the same time. The next moment, a white barrier appeared with the academy at its center, spreading outward in all directions. It enveloped the entire Heavenly Dao Academy. Then came mist and haze, covering everything and blocking those prying gazes. So lively, Suzimo chuckled softly. What's happening? Pure Water asked with a solemn look in her eyes. Relax, it won't involve us here just yet, Suzimo replied with a smile. When the battle fully spreads out, then it'll affect us. Strange phenomena within the Heavenly Dao Academy continued to unfold. Golden lotuses surged from the earth, layer upon layer, rising into the sky and blooming everywhere. There were also phantoms of golden lions roaring across mountains and rivers, stepping forward to shatter void and smoke as if about to break through illusion itself. Tornadoes formed of demonic wind swept across half the academy. Any building without someone guarding it was mostly destroyed. Cracks in the ground spread from just a few dozen at first to hundreds and thousands. The cracks multiplied and even turned into gorges. In an instant, wind and storm raged, heaven and earth lost their color, sun and moon seemed to vanish. A streak of light shot from the edge of the horizon, slamming hard into the white barrier outside the academy. With a loud boom, the barrier exploded in ripples and waves of light. A figure in purple robes dispersed the mist, appearing outside the barrier. This purple-robed figure gave off an aura of grandeur. Standing in the heavens, it felt as though he alone suppressed the sky. Thunder surged faintly around him. Crackling bursts of lightning erupted around his body. His purple robe fluttered in the fierce wind. The man's gaze carried a faint pressure as he looked toward the Heavenly Dao Academy. His voice thundered, "Where is Night Blade?" The sound carried supreme majesty, echoing throughout the entire academy. "Who is Night Blade?" Suzimo turned to Pure Water and asked. "You don't even know that?" Pure Water said helplessly. "Have you never studied the history of our Heavenly Dao Academy?" Suzimo shook his head with a smile. "Our academy was founded by the 10 sages. Night Blade was the disciple of the Lightflow Swordsage, one of the 10 sages. He is also one of the oldest living ancestors of our Heavenly Dao Academy," Pure Water explained. Su Zimo nodded slightly, his gaze turning to the purple-robed man in the sky. He said, "His clothing looks familiar. That's the uniform of the Imperial Throne's sacred ground. No wonder it looks familiar," Pure Water snorted. "This man should be none other than Ancestor Thunder Demon, War General of the Thunder Emperor, the third Grand Emperor of the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground." Imperial Throne Sacred Ground? Hearing this, Su Zimo finally remembered. He had once had enmity with the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground. Back then, he had slain Xiang Kunlun, the holy son of the Imperial Throne Sacred Ground. But since it had been a fair duel, and Su Zimo himself was the holy son of the true martial sacred ground, the matter had been left unresolved. Unexpectedly, they were meeting again now. They say 7 lineages are leading the attack on Heavenly Dao Academy. It seems the Imperial Throne's sacred ground is one of them, Su Zimo said with a laugh. At this moment in the heavens, as Ancestor Thunder Demon's voice fell, another figure from within the academy strode out into the sky to face him. This figure was none other than the academy's vice dean, Li Changhe. Clad in white robes, with the air of an immortal, he met the other's gaze with overwhelming presence. "May I ask why Lord Thunder Demon has come to my Heavenly Dao Academy?" Li Changhe asked. "Vice Dean Li, let us not beat around the bush. I want the glazed lamp of the glazed hall. Give it to me, and my Imperial Throne's sacred ground will immediately withdraw from this battle," Ancestor Thunder Demon said indifferently. "Thunder Demon, when North Emperor was young, he once trained at my Heavenly Dao Academy. He was taught by our sages. Now your Imperial Throne's sacred ground would attack us," Li Changhe said coldly. The North Emperor was the second Grand Emperor of the Imperial Throne's sacred ground. Hearing Li Changhe's words, Ancestor Thunder Demon chuckled. He replied, "The North Emperor did indeed receive the kindness of your academy. But in his era as bearer of heaven's will, he also protected your academy, ensuring its safety for 1,000 years. That debt has already been repaid." As he spoke, his aura surged mightily, forming a river of thunder that surrounded him. In today's world, without a Grand Emperor, it is survival of the fittest. Your academy cannot rely on that little bit of kindness to demand my Imperial Throne's sacred ground's eternal loyalty. I am not greedy. I ask only for a single glazed lamp. If that is the case, then there is nothing more to say, Li Changhe replied calmly. If you wish for battle, then battle it shall be. It seems Vice Dean Li is truly obstinate. Nightblade has not appeared, perhaps he cannot free himself, Ancestor Thunder Demon said flatly. When the Sky Blue Demon Rock breaks free, that will be the moment when we 7 Imperial lineages launch our full assault on your academy. I will see then how you resist. After speaking, Ancestor Thunder Demon's figure vanished into the mist, leaving Li Changhe alone, standing in the void with an angry face. This Imperial Throne's sacred ground is truly ungrateful, Pure Water said angrily. Now that the academy faces disaster, even if they would not help, they should not add insult to injury. Because this piece of meat is too fat, Su Zimo said with a smile. His gaze turned toward the northern skies, where demonic energy surged upward. Never before had he seen demonic energy so dense. Dense to the point of surpassing even a Zenith Immortal's presence. But Su Zimo knew in his heart that in this world there was no existence beyond Zenith Immortal. The God Emperor was an exception, but he could not stay long. Eventually, he too would leave for the outer heavens. The rules of the Heavenly Dao did not permit such beings, for they would disrupt the development of the primordial heartlands. Their existence would render heaven's will meaningless. Time passed bit by bit, and the number of gazes fixed on the Heavenly Dao Academy grew ever greater. Everyone coveted this fat prize accumulated over countless eras. Finally, at dawn the next day, the northern sky completely collapsed, drowned in demonic energy. A storm of violent wind and rain swept forth. Amid the flying sand and rocks, Su Zimo saw a massive figure soar into the heavens, spreading its wings across the sky. Beastly roars rang out in succession, each louder and more forceful than the last. "I am out," Finally out, an aged voice roared, as if venting endless resentment that had accumulated for ages. 10 sages, you cannot imprison me. No one can. As the resounding voice echoed throughout the entire Heavenly Tao Academy, a massive shadow with flapping wings circled in the sky above. It soared freely, wanting to pierce the heavens, releasing the suppression it had endured for countless eras. Explosions mixed with blazing flames erupted one after another across the academy. Everyone stared in shock at the shadow amid the flying sand and rocks. That dense demonic aura was the strongest existence they had ever seen in their lives. Across tens of thousands of miles, countless beasts knelt, myriad beasts scattered, all prostrating on the ground trembling. What kind of monster is this? Pure Water said in utter shock, even though she had already imagined how terrifying this monster would be. But when faced with it directly, her face turned pale, and she felt her own strength as fragile as paper. What kind of being do you think could make the Heavenly Tao Academy so helpless? Su Zimo said with a smile. When all the mist finally dispersed and the sky became clear, everyone saw the monster's true appearance. Its body was nearly 100,000 meters long. Just soaring into the heavens alone, it blotted out the sky, blocking even the light of the sun. Su Zimo examined it carefully and realized the uniqueness of this sky-blue demon rock. The feathers around its head were blue-violet, while around its eyes were circles of white feathers. Between its brows, however, was a deep crimson mark. Though called a demon rock, its size was immense, its body like a giant serpent, thousands of meters long, coiling across the land. Behind it stretched a pair of colossal wings that covered the sky. The wings had 4 protrusions, each growing a smaller eagle head. On its head were 2 golden horns, diamond-shaped like armored blades. Around its lower jaw grew 6 long fangs. Especially its mouth. When it opened, shrill cries burst forth with demonic energy. When it inhaled, the temperature of heaven and earth plummeted, and heavy snow fell. When it exhaled, the temperature rose sharply, as though midsummer had descended. With each breath in and out, clouds, thunder, and lightning surged, myriad transformations arose. Its whole body was a deep crimson, as if shrouded by red mist. The overwhelming beastly might spread, shaking everyone's hearts. Stop! A loud shout echoed from within the Heavenly Tao Academy. 10 figures soared into the sky, surrounding the sky-blue demon rock at the center. Each figure exuded vast power, their spirit force surging. Any one of them alone could pierce the heavens and suppress the age. There was an old woman holding a dragon-headed cane, who lightly tapped the sky, sending endless ripples spreading out. The entire firmament collapsed beneath her feet. There was also a blind man with cloth over his eyes, holding a long sword, piercing through mist and storms, his sword Tao illuminating the heavens, as though traveling from antiquity itself, shining upon the world. Another elder with immortal bearing stood atop a red-maned lion, his body encased in blue ice. With each step, he froze the sky, froze time and space itself, walking into the firmament. These 10 people were all different, but each had their own unique path. Every one of them emanated power like torrential floods, crashing down in an unstoppable suppression. You 10 old fossils, don't think you can trap me again, the demon rock roared angrily. With a single casual flap of its wings, the heavens darkened, and a tornado storm surged forth. Trap it! One of the 10 shouted. All 10 unleashed their weapons. There was the dragon-headed staff, the long sword, a fiery cudgel. The 10 weapons soared into the sky. Suspended and spinning, they merged into a sealing mark that pressed down, forming a hexagram-like seal, enclosing the sky-blue demon rock. The 10 stood tall, their spines straight, hands weaving seals, eyes closed, chanting words in a language no one could understand. But the pressure from them only grew stronger, and the suppressive force intensified. The seal shone with boundless radiance, aiming to drive the demon rock back into the earth. Don't even dream of it! The demon rock resisted with furious flapping. Its boundless power hammered the suppressive seal. Even if the 10 sages themselves lived today, they could no longer seal me, let alone you juniors. Demon Rock, I believe we can negotiate, said the blind man, stepping forth calmly. Negotiate? About what? The Demon Rock roared. Our Heavenly Tao Academy bears no intention of enmity with you. The reason the 10 sages sealed you in the past was because your slaughter upon humanity was too heavy, and they had no choice, the blind man said. You've been sealed for countless eras, suffering hardship, tasting endless solitude. If today you vow not to harm the innocent of humanity again, we will let you leave. How about it? You think you're qualified to make terms with me? The Demon Rock snorted coldly. You are indeed strong, but if we must perish together, today even if we are shattered to dust, burning our last flame here, we will still seal you for another 10,000 years, the blind man declared. Myriad Beast Prison. The 10 weapons above continued spinning, as if they had always been one whole. They gradually formed into a domain, trapping the Demon Rock within. But the Demon Rock was no ordinary foe. Each of its collisions and struggles nearly shattered the prison. It was already on the verge of breaking apart. We'll take it back to the sealing grounds. The Heavenly Tao Academy will be left to you, the blind man instructed Vice Dean Li Changhe. Li Changhe hurriedly nodded. The 10 then changed their seals again, dragging the domain and heading deep into the academy. The unwilling roars of the Demon Rock still echoed continuously. Its voice shattered the sky, reverberating through the empty void fissures. Do you think the sages can suppress that Demon Rock? Pure Water asked anxiously from below. No. Su Zimo shook his head directly. Why? Pure Water asked. It looks like the Demon Rock has already been subdued for now. If the sages could truly suppress the Demon Rock, they would have already done so. Why else would it have broken through its seal and emerged again? Su Zimo countered. Then what should we do? Pure Water asked nervously. Although they can't completely suppress it, holding it down for a time is possible, Su Zimo replied. The matter of the Demon Rock is urgent, but not yet catastrophic. What we really must watch out for are those who've come to carve up the spoils. You mean those imperial lineages? Pure Water looked toward the heavens, suddenly realizing. They're using the emergence of the Demon Rock to drag all 10 sages away. Now with the Heavenly Tao Academy leaderless, this timing of theirs is perfect. Su Zimo nodded. If one thing is mishandled, I fear the Academy won't be destroyed by the sky blue Demon Rock, but instead by the hands of these people, Su Zimo said. Our Heavenly Tao Academy has helped many in the past. I don't believe that, in this time of crisis, no one will come to our aid, Pure Water said solemnly. In today's world, everyone only sweeps the snow in front of their own doors. The fact that they don't take advantage of the Academy's misfortune and strike while the iron is hot, well, isn't that already a kind of help in disguise? Su Zimo laughed. You expect them to come to our rescue? I think the chances are slim. At best, some rogue cultivators like Blood Butcher might appear, but the imperial lineages? Not likely. Why not? Pure Water still asked, unwilling to accept it. Every decision of an imperial lineage affects the future of their lineage's path. Unless they were gambling everything, they won't choose to oppose so many other imperial lineages, Su Zimo said. Of course, that's only my judgment. Perhaps there may be one or two righteous and loyal souls who really will come. As the two chatted, the skies above had already begun to change color. The rumbling sound of thunder resounded from the heavens. Outside, one could clearly hear people attacking the Academy's violet barrier. Although this violet barrier was strong, under the continuous barrage of attacks, it didn't last long. With the sound of shattering, a vast and mighty aura pressed down from above. Countless figures, each accompanied by rolling, overwhelming momentum, stood in the sky. Each of these figures was like a blazing sun, dazzling and radiant, burning fiercely. This matter at Heavenly Tao Academy had spread wide, its waves reaching far and wide. It was no exaggeration to say that the eyes of the entire continent were fixed here. Whether it was the factions joining the battle or those still watching on the sidelines, all were focused on this vast land. We've arrived. Does Heavenly Tao Academy not plan to send anyone to greet us? A loud laugh rang out from the crowd above. That's Universal Deliverance, true immortal of the merciful voyage sacred ground. Pure Water quickly explained to Su Zimo, the foremost general under Master Merciful Voyage in her day. Master Merciful Voyage was also a Grand Emperor, but she disliked using the title of Emperor, so the world called her Master. It really is lively, Su Zimo said with a smile, gazing at the sky above where each figure exuded such dominance and momentum like an ocean. Merciful Voyage Sacred Ground, Ancient Dragon Dynasty, Pure Yang Sacred Ground, Dark Heaven Sacred Ground, Imperial Throne Sacred Ground, Radiant Flame Confederacy, and the Crescent Imperium. Among these 7 powers, the first 5 were all imperial lineages of the Middle Continent. The latter 2, Radiant Flame Confederacy and the Crescent Imperium, were more interesting. Radiant Flame Confederacy was merely a city-state, yet it had produced a true Grand Emperor, the Flame Emperor. Flame Emperor commanded all the fires of the world and, in his youth, left behind countless legendary tales. The city was located between the Mad Race and the Myriad Beast Race, standing amid storms of war. Because of the ceaseless fighting between the 2 races, Radiant Flame Confederacy was naturally not spared from hardship. It was said that in his youth, Flame Emperor alone defended the city, striking so hard that neither the Mad Race nor the 10,000 Beast Clan dared to invade again. On that war-torn land, Radiant Flame Confederacy might have been the most peaceful place of all. Both Radiant Flame Confederacy and the Crescent Imperium lay in the Western continent, and both had produced Grand Emperors. Calling them imperial lineages would not be an exaggeration. Oh! This time, the 7 great imperial lineages had come to attack Heavenly Tao Academy, but they had not committed their entire forces. Instead, they sent representatives. Just as Imperial Throne Sacred Ground sent Thunder Demon, and Merciful Voyage Sacred Ground sent Universal Deliverance True Immortal, the others too had sent strong figures forward. 9 Suns Wanderer, Proud Dragon Ancestor, Heaven-Burning War General, Dark Ancestor, Half-Moon Saint. Pure Water muttered each name as she recognized them. Then she sneered. And all these supreme sects nearby, Crimson Leaf Valley, Sky River Sect, Cloudfall Sect, do they really think our academy is so easy to bully? You sure know a lot of people, Su Zimo chuckled. Actually, we received word about the factions planning to attack long ago. I even looked into their records beforehand, so of course I know some, Pure Water replied. So what do we do now? Relax, Su Zimo said calmly as he leaned back against the stone bench. Relax? Do you mean to sit still and wait for capture? Pure Water asked. Our task is only to guard the treasure tower. All we need to do is wait for those who want to seize it to come, Su Zimo answered. Pure Water nodded slightly. She slowly drew the whip from her waist, flames burning crimson red across its length. Oh! At this moment, it seemed the Academy had heard Universal Deliverance True Immortal's words. This time it wasn't Vice Dean Li Changhe who appeared, but Venerable Nu, stepping into the sky. His gaze swept across the gathered figures. Although any one of them was a peerless expert, each one at the level of immortal ascension, Venerable Nu showed no fear or hesitation. He merely said calmly, Our Heavenly Tao Academy is in the midst of upheaval and accepts no outsiders. Whoever dares force their way into the Academy, kill. A starved camel may be larger than a horse, but your old ancestors are tied down by the sky-blue demon rock. What power do you have to resist us now? The 9 Suns Wanderer sneered, pure yang energy surging around him as if he had become 9 blazing suns shining across the world. The surrounding void was burned into nothingness. At his side, the heaven-burning war general also erupted in flames, though his fire was not pure yang. Instead, it burned with countless kinds of flames, pure yang fire, purple star flame, sacred flame, nether ghost fire, red lotus karma fire. It was said this heaven-burning war general had obtained flames left behind by the Flame Emperor himself, and since then had scoured the world for powerful fires to refine. The two of them stood like twin suns in the sky, suppressing everything below. Their radiance and flames even seemed to outshine the sun overhead. Of course, this was not because they surpassed the sun itself, but because their presence was nearer, heavier, more immediate. Who says no one is here? Just as the standoff tightened, a thunderous shout came. Everyone turned their heads quickly. A towering, burly man strode barefoot across the horizon. He stood several zhang tall, his figure like a giant. His muscles rippled, bare-chested, with a massive meteor hammer strapped to his back. He wore only brown shorts on his lower half. With every barefoot step, vast stretches of void shattered beneath him. Mad Lord of 7 lifetimes. Someone whispered upon seeing the burly figure. The academy is in peril. Kuang Qianting has come to aid it. The man gave a light shout, his voice shaking the heavens, echoing in the ears of all present. Mad Lord of 7 lifetimes, Kuang Qianting. Many around murmured, murmurs spreading like ripples. Why is he here? I heard he once cultivated at Heavenly Tao Academy. Likely he's come to help. Who is he? Su Zimo looked at Pure Water and asked. You really don't know anything? Pure Water covered her forehead and shook her head. He was once a rogue cultivator whose name shook the entire Middle Continent. It's said that his cultivation technique is very special, allowing him to reincarnate, ultimately achieving eternal life. Whenever his lifespan reaches its limit, he can choose to reincarnate. But the cost of reincarnation is huge. His memories and cultivation reset to 0, forcing him to start over. Only when he cultivates back to the height of his previous life will his memories return. Interesting, Su Zimo smiled. People call him the Mad Lord of 7 lifetimes because he is said to have reincarnated 7 times. And his behavior has always been extremely arrogant. Pure Water continued. This man once destroyed an entire lineage all by himself. Kuang Qianting, do you intend to interfere in this matter as well? Dark Ancestor of the Dark Heaven Sacred Ground stepped forward. He chuckled. Why not join us? After we take this academy, we can give you a share, 10%. A bunch of dog shit. I wouldn't lower myself to be with the likes of you. Kuang Qianting stood in the sky. His long hair danced wildly in the wind, and a sharp coldness flashed in his eyes. I once had the honor of receiving guidance from Azure Tiger Sage. Now that the academy is in trouble, if you want to step foot inside, you'll have to walk over my corpse first. Kuang Qianting, normally this old man would give you 3 points of courtesy, Dark Ancestor said calmly. But today, our face with Heavenly Tao Academy has already been torn apart. Since we've come, we won't leave easily. Then come all of you at once. If I frown even a little, consider it my loss. Kuang Qianting slowly raised the meteor hammer on his back. In an instant, earthly fire surged into the heavens. On the meteor hammer, it was as if a star had fallen. A meteor crashed down, engulfing the entire void beneath his feet. Brother Qianting, you've beaten me to it this time. Just then, a loud laugh echoed from the horizon. Pour white wine, circle the eastern fence. Not into the poetry of the 2 birds of old. Everyone looked up again. Another monk appeared, draped in patched robes, with a large bundle strapped to his back. He looked like the laughing Buddha, with a round belly, smiling happily as he came from the horizon. A stream of pure energy flowed beneath his feet. This energy condensed into what looked like a cloud, carrying him slowly forward. South Sun Monk, someone cried out again. This is like seeing a ghost. How are all these elusive big shots suddenly appearing one by one? South Sun Monk, are you here to help Heavenly Tao Academy as well? Kuang Qianting asked. A flower is a world, a leaf a Tathagata. One thought brings purity. The heart is a blooming lotus. The South Sun Monk laughed loudly. My heart is like a lotus. In these 3,000 great worlds, everywhere is a pure land. Long ago, I received kindness from Heavenly Tao Academy. Today, I come to repay that kindness, to keep my lotus heart pure. I don't like you people of Buddha and Tao, always misleading hearts. Kuang Qianting laughed. But I must admit, some of your great truths are worth pondering. At least they let you understand, you are still a man. After speaking, Kuang Qianting looked toward the heavens all around. His voice carried supreme power, echoing across hundreds of miles. Today, in Heavenly Dao City, I believe the eyes of the entire continent are focused here. All of you sects must be watching by various means. Since the desolate era, Heavenly Dao Academy has been established. How much have they contributed to our human race? How many of your ancestors once cultivated here, receiving its grace? Now that the Academy suffers disaster, in both sentiment and reason, you should act to help. Kuang Qianting's voice was nearly hysterical. And yet all of you remain silent. You are even worse than these 7 imperial lineages. At least they had the courage to come openly. Don't think I don't know what you're planning. Once they destroy Heavenly Dao Academy, you'll crawl out to share in the spoils. That way you'll gain benefits without bearing the infamy of destroying the Academy. That's the consensus you've all reached, isn't it? At this moment, within each lineage, the situation was much the same. Inside the Grand River God sect, in the Great Hall of Deliberation, from the sect master down to the core elders, all gathered. At the center of the hall lay a blood coffin. Above it in the void, a mirror hung, projecting an image. The mirror displayed the events unfolding at Heavenly Dao Academy. Such are the methods of imperial lineages. Even separated by tens of millions of miles, they can still clearly observe every detail of what happens there. Is Kuang Qianting mad? This is declaring war on all imperial lineages. But what he says is also true. We might just end up being cursed by the masses for it. The hall was full of chatter. The sect master of Grand River God sect looked toward the blood coffin in the center and asked, "Ancestor, shall we go to their aid?" "Wait and watch," came the aged voice from within the coffin. But our ancestor also once benefited from the teachings of Heavenly Dao Academy. Aren't you afraid of being criticized for this? The sect master asked. One must know that imperial lineages place the greatest importance on their reputation and prestige. As the strongest forces on the primordial heartlands, most ordinary cultivators seeking a sect to join would first choose an imperial lineage. Only then would they consider first-rate or second-rate powers. But if an imperial lineage's reputation is ruined, joining it becomes a disgrace. Without fresh blood flowing in, the future of the sect is cut in half. This is one of the reasons many imperial lineages decline. No matter how strong the ancestors were, time is the most merciless weapon. Wait! The old man in the coffin remained unmoved. This matter is too complicated. A few words from Kuang Qianting cannot sway it. Similar scenes unfolded in all imperial lineages. No one chose to act. They wanted to see who would stick their neck out first. Oh! At this moment above Heavenly Dao Academy, Kuang Qianting's voice still rang out, powerful and unyielding. Imperial lineages, with your 10,000-year foundations, heirs of grand emperors, I see you as nothing more than rats hiding in the corner, staring at the food on the table. Kuang Qianting began to recite the names of imperial lineages that had once received Heavenly Dao Academy's kindness. Grand River God Sect, Dark Heaven Sacred Ground, Dan Imperial Clan, Buddha Realm, 9 Cities, Supreme Primal Sacred Ground, True Martial Sacred Ground. Hold on a minute. Kuang Qianting's words were suddenly cut off by a voice below. Everyone looked down to see Su Zimo stepping out from the tower. Cough, cough. Su Zimo gave a light cough twice. Then he said, I am the current holy son of the true martial sacred ground. This time, I am here representing the true martial sacred ground. Although the true martial sacred ground had indeed remained silent regarding this matter, recalling the past, Grand Emperor Jinwu, as a member of the human race, was the first Grand Emperor among all races. He opened the imperial era, and his merits and achievements absolutely ranked him among the greatest emperors. But in that age when humanity declined, Jinwu had also entered the Heavenly Dao Academy, where he studied supreme divine techniques, which greatly aided his future accomplishments. As the holy son of the true martial sacred ground, Su Zimo could not sit idly by. Since he was already here at the Heavenly Tao Academy, helping his sect regain some reputation would not hurt. He looked up at Kuang Qianting in the sky, secretly shaking his head in his heart. This is no mad lord of 7 lifetimes. It's a roast lord of 7 lifetimes. Across the entire primordial heartlands, nearly every imperial lineage had been scolded by him. And since they were at fault, they had no way to retort. Hearing Su Zimo's words, Kuang Qianting froze for a moment before realizing. He replied, "Ah, my apologies, I didn't investigate clearly. The true martial sacred ground doesn't count." Just as Kuang Qianting was about to continue speaking, several of the imperial lineages on the side could no longer sit still. The 9 Sons Wanderer shouted coldly, "In this world, the winner is king and the loser is the villain. What's the point of wasting so many words?" Around him, 9 blazing suns floated like scorching heavens. The fiery heat burned through the void. Some who were too close even began to combust spontaneously. Except for the strongest cultivators, everyone else had to retreat from him. 9 suns piercing day. The 9 Sons Wanderer let out a soft shout. The 9 sons all charged toward Kuang Qianting. "Everyone, take what you need." The proud dragon ancestor also roared. He transformed into a thunder dragon, rushing deep into the Heavenly Tao Academy. Crackling explosions echoed wherever he passed. He arrived before a magnificent great hall, his endless body coiling around it. He directly uprooted the entire great hall. In that instant, his whole body surged with thunder and lightning, while a dragon's roar shook the heavens. The ground beneath the hall split into countless cracks. The earth sank, and countless surrounding buildings collapsed. "What thief dares intrude into my pavilion?" A furious voice bellowed from within the hall. Immediately after, countless long serpents slithered out, striking at the thunder dragon's body. These serpents were not true snakes, nor ordinary ones. They were condensed by a peculiar kind of power. As the serpents clashed against the thunder dragon's body, continuous explosions rang out. The thunder dragon stiffened from the assault. Its tail, which had been coiled tightly around the hall, loosened. The massive dragon head turned its mighty gaze toward the hall. Out stepped a man in long robes, several serpents coiling on his shoulders. "It's Venerable Min!" Someone within the Heavenly Tao Academy shouted. Seeing Venerable Min appear, the proud dragon ancestor chuckled. "It is said that within the Heavenly Tao Academy, the dean is the strongest, mysterious, and elusive, rarely seen. Next is the Vice Dean Li Changhe, who governs the entire academy. His strength already at the immortal path, profound and transcendent. Below them are the 2 venerables, one Nu, one Min. You 2 are the foremost teachers of the academy, famous throughout." "Interesting. There are many more interesting things to come," Venerable Min replied calmly. "You want to block me?" the proud dragon ancestor asked. "No." Venerable Min shook his head, a sharp glint flashing in his eyes. "To kill you." "Young man, what an arrogant tone. When I once followed the ancient dragon emperor and suppressed an entire era, you weren't even born yet," the proud dragon ancestor said indifferently. "Don't flatter yourself. I won't comment on the great achievements of the ancient dragon emperor. But you are nothing more than a lizard." Venerable Min snorted coldly. "Today, I'll extract your dragon bones as a warning to your ancient dragon dynasty, so you don't forget gratitude." Around Venerable Min, countless small serpents coiled, a strange energy swirling around him, clashing against the massive thunder dragon formed by the proud dragon ancestor. Whether it was the Blade Couple or the later arrival South Sun Monk and Kuang Qianting, each had blocked an imperial lineage powerhouse. The rest had all fallen into a melee. For the moment, victory was undecided. The entire Heavenly Tao Academy was engulfed in a layer of warfire. "Shouldn't we go help?" Pure Water looked toward the pavilion, where Su Zimo still sat calmly, and asked. "They're here." Su Zimo didn't answer her directly. Instead, he looked into the distance and slowly stood. "Who's here?" Pure Water asked curiously. "Brother Su," At that moment, Mo Tianming's figure reappeared, walking over from afar. He smiled and said, "We meet again." "I'd rather not," Su Zimo replied. "Myriad Treasures Tower, I only seek one item," Mo Tianming said with a smile. "Give it to me, and I can help you guard the Myriad Treasures Tower together. How about it?" "You?" Pure Water stared at Mo Tianming in shock. "As a student of the academy, how can you do this?" "Planned for long?" Su Zimo asked. "Yes and no. Although Brother Su and I have not known each other long, we get along well." Mo Tianming said, "I do not wish to harm you, nor do I bear malice toward the Heavenly Tao Academy, but that item I must obtain. With no other choice, I am forced." "What item?" Su Zimo asked. "This, Brother Su does not need to know," Mo Tianming replied. "And if I refuse?" Su Zimo asked. Mo Tianming did not answer. Instead, a vast aura surged from his body, waves of azure spirit force rippling. In an instant, Mo Tianming stepped forward. Su Zimo had seen his speed before, during his battle with Ji Ruobing, and roughly understood his strength. But now, with azure spirit force surrounding him, Mo Tianming's speed had more than doubled. He instantly stepped, his figure flashing into the pavilion. His palm slammed down toward the stone table inside. "You'll have to get through me first?" Su Zimo smiled, throwing a fist toward his head. If Mo Tianming did not evade, that punch would crush his skull. "Brother Su, why must this be?" Mo Tianming smiled. The hand that had been pressing down on the stone table paused, and his figure flickered out of the pavilion. "Since entering the Heavenly Tao Academy, I've seen many so-called young geniuses, but only Brother Su remains unreadable to me. Today, I must learn for myself," Mo Tianming said with a grin. "That was my thought as well." Su Zimo also smiled. His body blurred into countless afterimages in the void, charging at Mo Tianming. Azure Spirit Force and Black Spirit Force clashed in midair. Even Pure Water, standing aside, could only barely glimpse flickering shadows. She could not see either figure clearly. You must know that among the younger generation, his strength was already considered top tier. "So this is their true strength," Pure Water murmured to herself. Thinking back to how she had once tried to challenge Su Zimo, she couldn't help but blush. Shattered voids spread outward. The sounds of bang 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 explosions echoed all around. Countless afterimages flickered before her eyes, and Pure Water could only judge their positions by following the sound of the blasts. After more than a dozen breaths, with yet another violent explosion, Mo Tianming's figure was seen flying backward from the aftermath. Brother Su truly lives up to his reputation. Mo Tianming steadied himself, wiped the trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and smiled faintly. "You're not bad either," Su Zimo replied calmly. He wasn't exaggerating. Among all the young people he had fought, Mo Tianming's skill in hand-to-hand combat and battle experience could rank in the top 3. "In that case, I won't hold back anymore," Mo Tianming said. Behind him, as a powerful aura surged forth, his true fate manifested. A sun and a moon rose from the void with overwhelming might. Like a boundless tide descending from the heavens, sun and moon shone together, eclipsing the world, reflecting upon one another. The cold moonlight intertwined with blazing sunlight. The space behind him seemed to be divided into 2 realms. A scorching sun hung high, a bright moon towered above. Mo Tianming stepped into the air, his aura transforming. He seemed vast and majestic, as if he could pluck sun and moon with his hands and carry the heavens on his shoulders. The spirit force within him surged like a boundless sea, wave after wave crashing forth as he struck again. "When you fought Ji Ruobing before, you didn't show your true strength, did you?" Su Zimo asked. "She wasn't worthy, but I believe Brother Su is." Mo Tianming smiled. Both his fists struck toward Su Zimo. One fist like the blazing sun, the other like the shining moon. The void along their path was melted and burned away. Su Zimo's heaven-shattering force surged within him. He summoned the heaven-shattering giant. This giant, the embodiment of absolute strength, roared to the sky. This mountain-like fists clashed with Mo Tianming's blows. Just in sheer size, it utterly crushed Mo Tianming. When the two collided, there was even a brief moment of stillness. The two forces were evenly matched, locked in place. Shockwaves spread out in all directions. The space around them cracked like a spiderweb, spreading outward from Su Zimo's giant and Mo Tianming as the center. At last, unable to bear the strain, the space completely collapsed. Countless chaotic space currents rampaged past, brushing against their bodies. These currents could tear weaker cultivators apart instantly. Su Zimo smiled. He not only used the power of his power vortexes, but also opened his strange meridians. Of the 36 strange meridians, with the aid of the Heaven-Earth God Stone, he had already opened 25. As the 25 meridians all flowed with energy, power circulated through every channel of his body. The once dull eyes of the heaven-shattering giant suddenly flashed with brilliance. The next instant, its fist wind howled forth, unstoppable, smashing Mo Tianming away with overwhelming might. Mo Tianming's body was sent flying, crashing heavily into a grand hall. The sound of collapse rumbled as the hall fell completely into ruins amidst clouds of dust. "If you leave now, I will spare your life," Su Zimo said indifferently. He glanced back at the Myriad Treasures Tower. The tower was hidden within the void, and only by destroying the stone table in the tower, the core of the formation, could this independent space be broken open, revealing it. Usually, the Myriad Treasures Tower was visible to all, but because the Heavenly Tao Academy faced great tribulation, it had been concealed. "Just for those words alone, later I won't kill you." Mo Tianming stood up from the ruins, smiling faintly. He stretched his body, his injuries healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. "You're that confident?" Su Zimo smiled. "Your trump card is that imperial might, isn't it?" "So Brother Su knows," Mo Tianming replied. As his voice fell, a vast and mighty power erupted from his body. This power seemed to permeate every limb, every cell, elevating his entire being. Imperial might poured forth. The entire sky was blanketed beneath it. Rivers of spirit force flowed unceasingly. Purple chi stretched 3,000 miles. A great river of energy hung upside down from the southeastern horizon. Centered on Mo Tianming, all the spirit force in heaven and earth converged toward him. In that moment, his aura transformed. He seemed to stride out from the primordial wilderness. Boundless imperial might showered down. "Grand Emperor," Su Zimo murmured, staring at Mo Tianming above, but then he quickly shook his head. "No, compared to a Grand Emperor, you only have the form, not the essence. You're still only at the God Meridian realm. Tell me, how does this compare to a young Grand Emperor?" Mo Tianming descended, laughing lightly. He casually clenched his hand, and air itself solidified, space shattered. Countless streams of air condensed into arrows, spraying out in all directions. "Young Grand Emperor?" Su Zimo smiled. "Yes and no. To become an emperor, it takes more than strength alone. Brother Su, try this instead." Mo Tianming laughed aloud. Behind him, both sun and moon became shrouded in imperial might. The two began to merge, like a celestial beast devouring sun and moon. At that moment, the entire world went pitch black. What's happening? Within the Heavenly Tao Academy, all those locked in battle were stunned. They looked around in confusion. "It feels like some power has veiled the heavenly runes, covering the sun and moon," someone sensed and said calmly. "9 stars in a row," came a low shout. Su Zimo suddenly felt himself locked by an immense force. In his vision, aside from the world of darkness, 9 stars appeared, lined up in a straight row. Each of the 9 stars represented a particle world. Each radiated destructive, world-shattering might. Their light blazed forth, like meteorites crashing down, all striking toward Su Zimo. 9 stars in a row. Isn't this the signature technique of the Supreme Void Emperor? Su Zimo muttered. 9 stars in a row was originally a natural celestial phenomenon. It was said that beyond the primordial heartlands, in the infinite void, lay countless hidden particle worlds. Each particle world followed its own unique trajectory. Because the orbits were relative, these particle worlds could coexist peacefully, without collision, overlap, or spatial disorder. But every 100,000 years, these trajectories aligned, and the vision of 9 stars in a row would appear. The 9 stars connected together, blocking the world where the primordial heartlands resided. As a result, the entire day would remain in darkness. As for the Supreme Void Emperor, both his origin and his end were particularly mysterious. It was said he was most fond of venturing into all kinds of secret realms, extremely curious about the worlds beyond the primordial heartlands. Not only the outer heavens, but also countless particle worlds. Even after he bore the heaven's will, his whole life was devoted to studying the phenomenon of 9 stars aligning. It was said that tens of thousands of years ago, during another appearance of the 9 stars alignment, he disappeared along with that night. From then on, he never appeared again. Later generations had many speculations about him. Some said he ascended to the worlds beyond, while others said he broke through the spatial barrier and went to other particle worlds. In short, opinions varied, but without any definite result, he gradually faded from people's memories. At this moment, when the Supreme Void Emperor's art was unleashed through Mo Tianming's hands, Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Those 9 stars seemed to represent 9 particle worlds, descending from the heavens. An endless might suppressed everything. The heaven-shattering giant behind Su Zimo reached out to block, but almost instantly was shattered and destroyed by the impact of the 9 stars. Although the Gate of Eternity could temporarily grant immunity to this attack, it was ultimately temporary. Judging by the momentum of this 9 stars alignment, it was bound to be a lasting and large-scale destruction. In the empty, dark sky, only those 9 stars covered everything, illuminating all the heavens. Brother Su, please give me your guidance. Mo Tianming stood in a corner of the darkness. It was as if he had merged into the darkness itself, robes fluttering, long hair flowing without wind. He was smiling faintly as he gazed at Su Zimo. In that case, let's give it a try, Su Zimo replied. He waved his right hand, and dense infernal energy shrouded the surroundings. This infernal energy was even deeper and darker than the surrounding blackness. The infernal energy enveloped Su Zimo completely, and even Mo Tianming could not see through what was happening inside. When the 9 stars alignment descended, the sound of sonic booms swept in. Just as Mo Tianming was proudly watching his masterpiece, he suddenly felt that within that abyss of infernal energy, something even stronger seemed to be awakening. Immediately after, the dark infernal clouds condensed, and a streak of azure blue light flashed past. It seemed like the phantom of a blue planet had flickered for a moment. Before he could even look clearly, his 9 stars alignment was completely annihilated into nothingness. The darkness covering the heavens and earth also dispersed. The vision of everyone brightened again. Many people were left bewildered, but at the moment the darkness dispersed, Su Zimo's shadow tyrant was already pressed against Mo Tianming's neck. Only a foot away, Mo Tianming froze completely. His lips trembled, wanting to speak, but not a single word came out. Cold sweat dripped slowly down from his forehead. Just now, what was that? Mo Tianming asked. You don't need to know, Su Zimo retracted shadow tyrant. What is your relationship with the Supreme Void Emperor? The Supreme Void Emperor. Mo Tianming chuckled lightly. If I said I wanted to tear him to pieces, would you believe it? I don't. He taught you the 9 stars alignment, his life's greatest art. Su Zimo shook his head in reply. Kill me if you will. No need for so much nonsense, Mo Tianming said. The 9 stars alignment and that imperial might. Looks like you carry many secrets, Su Zimo smiled. I almost suspected you were the Supreme Void Emperor, but you're not. Hearing Su Zimo's words, Mo Tianming's eyes narrowed slightly, but he did not answer. Go. Su Zimo put away Shadow Tyrant and said calmly, Why don't you kill me? Mo Tianming was stunned and asked, I don't want to kill you, so I won't. Su Zimo replied, I don't owe favors. I'll repay this mercy of sparing me someday. Mo Tianming did not hesitate. After speaking, he walked into the distance. Watching his departing figure, Pure Water stepped forward and asked suspiciously, Why did you let him go? Follow him, but don't get discovered. Su Zimo said faintly. Me? Pure Water was stunned. He meant me. At that moment, the wise monk Great Wisdom stepped out, smiling as he explained. When Su Zimo waved his hand, the monk's gaze turned to Mo Tianming, and his figure gradually faded into the void. What medicine are you selling in your gourd? Pure Water studied Su Zimo, asking warily. Su Zimo just smiled and did not answer. At this moment inside the Heavenly Tao Academy, the battle was still raging. These imperial lineages and supreme sects had no intention of fighting to the death. They were all searching for what they wanted. As for whether the Heavenly Tao Academy survived or not, they didn't care at all. It was just a temporary alliance, with everyone harboring their own motives. It's here, no doubt. Several voices came around a corner of the academy, arriving outside a pavilion. They were 5 people, 3 men and 2 women, each wearing different colored robes. The 5 looked toward Su Zimo and Pure Water inside the pavilion. One of them asked, Hey, brat, is your Heavenly Tao Academy's treasure tower here? You're from the 5 Elements sect? Pure Water stood up and asked. Although not an imperial lineage, the 5 Elements sect was a leading force among the supreme sects. It was said that back then, the 5 Elements Venerable was also a contender for the Heaven's Will, but unfortunately, he failed in the end. Oh, seems someone still knows our name, one red-robed man laughed. Little girl, take us to the treasure tower, and we'll spare your life. How can the Heavenly Tao Academy be a place for you to run wild? Pure Water pulled the whip from her waist and shouted angrily. This fiery little girl, I like her. Another golden-robed man laughed lewdly. Enough nonsense. Take her down and interrogate her later. The green-robed woman frowned and said. The 5 surged with the power of the 5 elements, directly charging at Pure Water. You're not going to help me? Pure Water called out to Su Zimo as she fought back. They're yours to handle. This is your time to shine, Su Zimo replied with a smile. His gaze shifted to the other side in the distance. Footsteps sounded, and a figure slowly stopped at the other side of the tower. It was an old man. The elder was short, only about 1.60 meters. His hair and beard were long and entirely white, like an ancient immortal. In his hand was a wooden staff. Young friend, may I ask, is this the treasure tower? The old man looked at Su Zimo, smiling kindly. Yes. Su Zimo nodded calmly. I am responsible for guarding the Myriad Treasures Tower. Guarding the Myriad Treasures Tower? The white-haired old man chuckled softly. He said, Young man, this matter seems a little too big for you. What should I call you? Su Zimo asked. Call me Ancestor White Tiger. The old man chuckled again. He gently stroked his beard, looking wise and earnest. This title is far too old. Perhaps you've never even heard it. Indeed, I have not. Su Zimo nodded. Just as the two were speaking, 2 more figures stepped through the sky from the distance. Half Moon. Looks like I arrived first this time. A burst of laughter rang out from the side. Master Universal True Immortal. You cannot swallow the Myriad Treasures Tower alone. Why don't we join hands? Your Crescent Imperium's appetite is large indeed. But since everyone is cooperating this time, an alliance is fine. However, the things in the pavilion I must pick first. The 2 spoke and laughed as they descended. This universal true immortal wore white robes. His appearance carried a Buddhist aura, yet was somewhat demonic as well. It is said Buddha has 32 forms. Sometimes fierce, sometimes gentle, sometimes violent. Perhaps this was the so-called myriad forms of the world. Universal True Immortal's expression shifted constantly. Around his neck hung a string of prayer beads. Beneath his feet floated purple clouds. At his side, the half-moon saint looked feminine, almost like a woman. On his brow was a crescent moon mark, and he wore moonlit robes shimmering with lunar radiance. Even in daylight, the moonlight remained gentle and enchanting. "Oh, looks like someone beat us here already." Seeing Ancestor White Tiger, Su Zimo, and the fighting members of the Five Elements sect, the two chuckled. "Everyone, this place now belongs to my Crescent Imperium and the Merciful Voyage Sacred Ground. Please leave, so we won't need to act." Half Moon Saint smiled faintly. The battling Five Elements sect members stopped, their faces shifting. They didn't dare defy two imperial lineages, but to just leave like this they felt unwilling. Meat already at their mouths. How could they just let it slip away? "When did the Heavenly Tao Academy become your territory?" Pure Water snorted coldly. Hearing her, Universal True Immortal only smiled and said nothing. His gaze swept over, as though a great Buddha condensed from the void, suppressing Pure Water. Her face changed drastically. She wanted to dodge, but her body could not move. In an instant, Buddhist chants rang out. The Buddha pressed down. Suddenly, a jade hand crossed the void, a single finger pressing down, instantly dispersing the Buddha character into nothing. Everyone turned their heads at once, and saw a white-dressed woman stepping forward gracefully. "Dean!" Pure Water looked at her in shock. "You've worked hard." The woman smiled at Pure Water, then turned and rolled her eyes at Su Zimo. "I've heard the Heavenly Tao Academy's dean is elusive, mysterious beyond compare. Didn't expect to meet you today. Are you waiting for us deliberately?" Half Moon Saint chuckled. "Looks like we'll have to test ourselves." "I did not come for you," the white-dressed woman said lightly. She looked at Ancestor White Tiger and smiled. "Shurgong. Long time no see. White girl, I've never admitted to being your grandmaster." Ancestor White Tiger shook his head with a smile. "Don't think calling me that will stop me from making plans for the Heavenly Tao Academy. No matter what, you are my grandmaster. As for the rest, I mean nothing else," the woman replied, shaking her head. "Seems someone doesn't take us seriously." Universal True Immortal narrowed his eyes. Golden light surged around him. Within the Buddha light, it was as though a great Buddha was being born. Buddha light emerges. The golden radiance shot to the heavens, illuminating all. Buddha moves mountains and rivers. With a rumbling like mountains collapsing and seas breaking, Buddha clouds spread endlessly, one after another. Mountains moved, the world seemed to shatter. These Buddha clouds transformed into a five-finger mountain, suppressing the white-dressed woman. "You may be war generals of the Grand Emperors, but for tens of thousands of years your cultivation has not advanced. Not to look down on you, but you are not enough." The woman snorted coldly. With a wave of her hand, she suppressed the Buddha clouds instantly, dispersing all Buddha light. The entire void was frozen with a single finger. Space and time both locked. Universal True Immortal's body had no resistance, directly blown away. Seeing this, Su Zimo's gaze tightened. "Already stepped into a higher realm," he murmured. To know, both Half Moon Saint and Universal True Immortal were ancient immortals. Half Moon had already stepped into Undying Immortal, and Universal True Immortal was a Zenith Immortal. In theory, they were the strongest existences beneath Grand Emperors. Yet now, to be blown away so easily. Su Zimo had only ever seen one man like this. The Sky Shroud War God of the true martial sacred ground, who broke through the rules into a brand new realm. This woman seemed the same, though in terms of aura, she was weaker than the war god. "Seems in these tens of thousands of years, you've grown stronger, white girl." Ancestor White Tiger's eyes flickered, chuckling. Half Moon and Universal True Immortal returned, the ease on their faces gone. "Who exactly are you?" "The Dean of Heavenly Tao Academy. Do I need to explain?" she replied. "You've entered the Nirvana Void Realm?" Half Moon Saint frowned. "Half a step only." She shook her head slightly. "But to fight you, it is enough. Then let us try. A Nirvana Void existence is seen only once in 10,000 years. In all my life, I have never fought one. That legendary realm, this could be interesting," Half Moon Saint said calmly. The crescent mark on his forehead erupted in dazzling moonlight. In that moment, his entire being seemed elevated. White moon shocks the heavens. Lone wolf sings its sorrow. The moon robe he wore overflowed with radiance. Within the moonlight, a graceful figure danced, dancing with her shadow, as though not of this world. "Let's make a deal." The white-dressed woman turned to Suzimo, smiling. "What deal?" Suzimo asked. "Those two are yours." She pointed at Half-Moon Saint and Universal True Immortal. Then pointing at Ancestor White Tiger, she said, "He's mine. So you want me 2 versus 1? Suzimo smiled. "Then let's swap. I only say this for your good," the woman replied. "Shall we test it?" Suzimo pointed at Ancestor White Tiger and said, "It seems the young people nowadays are all very confident." Ancestor White Tiger said, "I'm the sort who likes to face difficulties head-on. Knowing there is a tiger in the mountain, yet I head toward the tiger's mountain." Suzimo smiled. "You are not his opponent." The white-robed woman looked at Suzimo and said, "How would I know without trying?" Suzimo replied, "Then as you wish. If you cannot fight him, call for me." The white-robed woman shook her head and chuckled. Around her body, lotus flowers bloomed one after another. Lotuses rise unsullied from the mud, transcendent and pure. It was as though this place had become the very domain of the lotus. "Pure water, fall back and guard the tower," the white-robed woman instructed. Then 8 petals unfolded, and from the flower's heart emerged misty aura carrying a killing intent, surging toward the Half-Moon Saint and the other 2. Explosions rumbled around the pavilion. The 3 figures stood together. They moved at the speed of light, beyond the grasp of the naked eye, their battle erasing the surrounding void. On the other side, Ancestor White Tiger looked at Suzimo and smiled. "Young friend, I'll let you make the first move." Suzimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Shadow Tyrant flew from its sheath by itself, leaving a trail across the sky. Holding the blade, his saber intent erupted in a dazzling burst. He slashed directly at Ancestor White Tiger. "Your saber intent is sharp, and you have already deeply grasped the Tao of the saber. Among the younger generation, only those youths who later became Grand Emperors had such comprehension," Ancestor White Tiger praised. He flicked his right finger, and as the blade fell, endless gales were stirred up. Suzimo felt as though he had struck an indestructible rock. The force of the rebound nearly shook the blade out of his hand. "The Nirvana Void Realm, that is the realm beyond Zenith Immortal?" Suzimo asked. With just one probing strike, he was sure. This man was absolutely beyond Zenith Immortal. He had fought Zenith Immortals before. They did not give him such immense pressure. Although Suzimo had yet to meet an enemy he could not overcome, he would soon ascend to the outer heavens. He wanted to test how far he still was from the true great powers. He understood he was not invincible. The path ahead was still long. "Again," Ancestor White Tiger smiled. "As far as I know, the primordial heartlands forbids existences stronger than Grand Emperors," Suzimo said. "How did you break that rule?" "This is within the rules," Ancestor White Tiger laughed. "I know you're probing, but this is no secret. The Imperial Path and the Immortal Path are 2 different roads. A Grand Emperor is the limit of the primordial heartlands, but entering the Immortal Path is not necessarily so. For the Immortal Path, this world is still very tolerant. In that case, calling you an old geezer is not improper," Suzimo said. "Boy, your arrogance runs deep," Ancestor White Tiger said. "I ought to curb it for you. This will help on your future road. Since Old Geezer has entered the Nirvana Void Realm, and I have risen from the dust, I have a few moves. To say I seek to instruct you would be arrogant, but I ask you to appreciate them," Suzimo said. Even Zenith Immortals could no longer test his limit. So he wanted to test himself against this White Tiger elder. "Taking me as your touchstone?" Ancestor White Tiger laughed. "If you pique my interest with your next strike, I don't mind watching. Otherwise, I will crush you with one palm. I once created the 19 forms of Tao seeking. These 19 forms represent the peak of the Tao of sabers. Later I refined them further. Old man, please test them. Su Zimo drew the Shadow Tyrant. Saber intent surged. He slowly swung the blade toward Ancestor White Tiger. It seemed an ordinary strike. No tricks, no flourishes. The first form, Dawn's Light. The second form, Drifting on Green Duckweed. The saber intent grew frantically, rising skyward at a speed visible to the eye. The third form, 100 Battles, Never Broken. The fourth form, Rising Against the Current. The fifth form, Windstorm Rises. A storm of saber intent gathered, forming into a tornado, roaring toward Ancestor White Tiger. Explosions thundered. Ancestor White Tiger lightly extended his right hand, and the winds driven by the saber forms instantly shifted direction. The sixth form, Blade of Slaughter. The seventh form, Draconic Storm. The storm condensed into saber intent, forming a golden dragon coiling toward him. Its dragon's roar shook heaven and earth, its might sweeping across. Within the dragon surged strands of slaughter intent. Good, your saber shadow takes physical form, and you've even grasped an artistic conception, Ancestor White Tiger praised. This is the reflection of your saber Tao. Again he waved his right hand. The golden dragon howled in despair, and its slaughter intent dissolved into nothing. The eighth form, the Deep Blue World. The ninth form, Celestial Rift. 2 more strikes followed. The Deep Blue World emerged, enveloping both Su Zimo and Ancestor White Tiger. Within this domain, he could perceive every transformation, even the slightest. Another saber light slashed forth. At that moment, heaven and earth were split by saber force, reduced to a single line of sky. Heaven and earth begin between one line. It represented the extreme of power. Domain, the ultimate form of power. Your saber Tao is very clear. Ancestor White Tiger nodded. He stretched out his hand and grasped that line of saber intent, crushing it to nothing. With his right foot, he stepped forward. At once, the entire Deep Blue World shook. Centered on him, a new independent domain appeared, shattering the Deep Blue World. The 10th form, Death Canopy. The 11th form, Heaven Blood. Night fell. The entire world sank into darkness. Even the blazing sun overhead was blotted out. This darkness veiled not only sight, but heart. Even perception itself could not spread within it. Within the dark, something seemed to dance. Then a streak of crimson passed through. The saber tore through silent void, its blood forming a river. It was a river of blood. This strike carried with it a blood river, mountains of corpses, and boundless killing intent. Marvelous. One strike blinds your enemy's perception. The next sharpens your own. But this blood, the murderous karma, is too heavy, Ancestor White Tiger said. He pointed lightly into the void. With a boom, a phantom emerged. Its form could not be seen clearly, but when it opened its eyes, darkness turned to day, night to dawn. It swallowed, and the endless blood river was devoured. The 12th form, Void Oblivion. The 13th form, Imperial Wrath. In that instant, Shadow Tyrant surged with annihilating saber intent. The blade's aura tore open the void above. From this saber intent coalesced a monstrous phantom. The monster's body was purple, immense, roaring. In its hand was also a saber. It roared, shattering mountains and rivers, dimming sun and moon, and swung its saber down at Ancestor White Tiger.